All right, we are back from sunny Roseville, Minnesota this morning for Top 8 Netrunner. This is the Off the Grid World Championship / Midwest Championship / Store Championship. And we are starting off with the 1 versus 8 matchup today. I need to switch the sides they're on because these are not the sides that those players are actually on. Swap seats. All right, there we go. We have Chris, who you saw in action yesterday with PD and Counter Surveillance Saya, and Kat Shen, who you saw yesterday in action with 419 and Sports. This is the top 8. They will only be, this matchup will be PD versus 419. The winner will have 1 loss but will not be out of the cut. The loser will move on and have an advantage in terms of number of games they potentially have to play in the rest of the tournament. I'm joined today, I'm Neuropanzer. I was with you all day yesterday. I assume you know who I am. I'm joined today by Ajar. Would you like to give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I've been around the game for a long time, since original Netrunner, but at the moment I am a member of the Standard Balance team that decided a lot of what this meta would look like.
Well, definitely a good person to have on comms. I imagine you have a lot of insight on these matchups. Any thoughts on the 419 versus PD matchup?
I think, well, that start looks pretty solid for 419. I normally feel like Rizeki is a little bit sluggish with how fast PD likes to go, but if you're going to drop them at all, dropping them on turn 1 seems pretty good.
I agree there, for sure. This seems like a pretty good start for PD as well, though. We already have 2 ice on the remote. We know one of them's a gatekeeper from the 419 expose. So this is going to be a very gross server to get through.
There's a seamless.
There's a seamless. That is an off-world office.
Yep.
So already scoring agendas, keeping up tempo. It's crazy that you actually gain tempo from scoring an off-world office out of PD.
It is pretty crazy. That whole package is highly synergistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that its resilience explains quite a bit of the pivot to Apoc that we've seen on the runner side, because runners other than 419 don't really have the pace to keep that pressure on.
And I think that's an important thing to point out. So for those less familiar with the way that cuts work in Netrunner, these players have access to each other's deck lists before they start playing today. So there's no threat of 419 Apocalypse. There might be a threat of 419 Apocalypse if you saw it in Swiss, but seeing it here in the cut, Chris knows that there is no chance Apocalypse is going to come out and kill the 2 ice on this remote server.
Right. The question, I think, will be if Chris has something else to jam. Because PD's a deck that wants to go. And there's a red spin doctor on the table, so he has been trying to dig for the next agenda and just keep that train rolling, but I don't know if he has it yet.
Certainly doesn't seem like it. I have to think that Chris might have already jammed if there were an agenda to jam.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The second you see one, it's going in that remote.
Yeah.
This Makua is going to be a big deal with that open R&D, I think.
We are seeing some of, I think, the strength of 419 come into play here. Obviously, you have ice on the remote. I think the natural place you would want to put the ice on a central is R&D to keep R&D safe so that you can draw those agendas, but 419 says you have to put that on HQ, otherwise you will not be rezzing ice, you will not be passing go, you will not have money.
That's
going
right.
to, not account siphon, but diversion of funds you.
Yeah, and diversion is interesting since it's such a tempo drain on the whole game. It's very in opposition to what, like, these 2 IDs are very much diametrically opposed to one another, since 419 is kind of a grindy value runner that slows things down with doof and other disruption, and kind of locks you in a vice grip. And PD wants to go with these tempo positive agendas. Keep the money up, keep the pace going, recur use seamless launch to score and recur the precision design ability while getting paid to do that. And so they're quite diametrically opposed as far as what they're trying to do.
We're seeing some of that speed in action already.
We are.
There is an Amakua on the table with an open central server that has valuable accesses on it, and still Amakua was not quick enough to actually threaten the 2 cards that were just put in the remote by PD.
That's right. Yeah, it's still got 0 counters on it.
Yep. And with the knowledge that there is a gatekeeper on the outside here, obviously there's
So
that's-
falsified showing a Rashida. And it does look like that was the guess.
yeah, very interesting. I know that
Good call.
there are many opinions on what the correct strategy is with guessing with falsified, but here it was guessing an asset, and that did in fact pay off. So not
Yeah.
threatening a score here, but a Rashida is an amount of tempo that could very easily play into a score.
Rashida's massive, absolutely massive in this matchup. And being able to defend it in the early game like this is huge.
We have a Deuces Wild exposing another gatekeeper on HQ. So this turtle will need to get up to 6 counters before it can threaten diversion of funds, running the remote, anything like that. It's starting to get there though. We have 3, now 4.
Oh, that was interesting. Second falsified here because Chris declined to res that upgrade after the Rashida was exposed by the earlier falsified. So now we know that it's a Managram Skunkworks, but in addition to that, 419 got 4 credits.
Just a free, and also a turtle counter,
And a turtle
which is
counter.
potentially very important. Some of the synergy that this 419 deck has, all of these expose effects that build up turtle, but also give you the knowledge to really play the controlling game that 419 wants to.
Penny Shaver coming down for 419, and is that Citadel Sanctuary?
That is a Citadel
Yeah.
Sanctuary. Yeah. Curious what the reasoning behind Citadel Sanctuary is in this particular matchup. I don't expect any meat damage. Oh, I'm wrong. This is an
Yeah.
interesting precision design. This is a
Yes.
hard-hitting news.
Yes, I think
Precision
I
design.
think there are 2 HHNs, 2 alt-art HHNs in hand right now. I think I just saw.
I think you're right.
And pre-installing the Citadel, this is exactly what you're talking about earlier with Swiss versus Cut. If this was a match in Swiss, 419 might not have installed that Citadel,
Right.
Because who needs it against Precision Design? Who has the time to be dropping something like that doesn't really do that much in the matchup, in theory. But now, having seen a deck list, they know what's up.
Also, definitely, again, showing some of the synergies in this 419 deck. Normally, the way that you charge up Turtle is you run, you run, you run, you run. That's a little dangerous against a deck that wants to hard hitting you. So,
It is.
having all of those expose effects in hand really helping out in this matchup.
I haven't seen the rest of the influence. So there's obviously Spin Doctors and HHNs, and I'm guessing the kill is Boom.
That's what we saw yesterday, yeah.
Okay. There's some Flex influence left over. Is it playing something like Econ Warfare to leverage credit gap, or is it just relying on the tempo?
One thing that we saw yesterday, actually, a very powerful play that we saw from this PD deck was seamless launch onto a reversed accounts. Reversed accounts pops to drain 8 credits, and then hard-hitting news. So
Okay,
reversed
yeah,
accounts accounts for
perfect.
some of that extra influence
Yep.
that we're missing.
So it's just like, actually, it's in a way it's a little bit like Outfit
Yes.
dedication ceremony on a reversed accounts.
I
And
believe
just-
that there's a perception of purple decks that are running hard-hitting news and boom that they are Swiss killers but not great in the cut. I think that we're seeing why that might be a false perception here though, because the tempo that you get from PD doing PD things can force very difficult decisions from a deck like 419 that theoretically is set up to beat decks like this.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we also saw Jonas, the Big Unit 3000, run the table at Fight Night a month or 2 ago with open deck lists and hard-hitting news boom out of Asa Group.
Yeah.
So-
it's still a very powerful strategy. You have to play well with it, but it is still a very powerful strategy, even if the opponent knows that it's coming.
Absolutely.
Now,
That said-
6 counters on Turtle.
Yeah.
This remote is less powerful than it used to look.
6
That
counters on
gatekeeper does
Turtle.
not do much.
And 14 credits. Now, that is a skunk on the remote. Okay, but that's 2 points for 419.
It is. Certainly
So-
an agenda that PD wanted to score as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd expect to see a Purge come out in the near future. Just a Turtle on 6 counters can't be allowed to stay on the board.
Yeah, if either of these initial agendas here had been a sandbox rather than off-worlds,
Yes,
I think we definitely would have seen some purging going on.
absolutely. Yeah, that is one of the things about Turtle in the current meta is Sandbox is just such a ubiquitous card, and it's also a sign that even in the era where we have Spin Doctor to help with your draw order, the order that you draw cards in does still matter, because a Cyberdex early against a deck that relies on Turtle for breaking ice can be backbreaking, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with all of that. I think basically the game being faster sort of mitigates the shaping effects that Spin Doctor has.
Agreed.
I also noticed, I
It's an
sort of
interesting
felt like
discard.
I've seen less, yeah, Fallout, interesting.
Yeah.
I've seen less Sandbox here this weekend than I was expecting, which is quite interesting to me. And I don't know if that was just what I ended up playing against and seeing, like whose games I ended up spectating, or if there really is less of it.
Yeah, I think part of that is Acme is a bit on the rise,
Right.
and Acme certainly doesn't play it.
Yep.
They're just on the 3 corners
Yep.
and the 1 corners.
Yep.
But in Precision Design, you certainly expect to see it, and if you're against the deck with Turtle, you want to see it earlier. Against Hive Mind Max, obviously.
Right,
as well.
right. Sports doesn't run it either.
Yeah. Now, this seems to have gotten to a point in the game that 419 is very happy with.
Yes.
2 Rezekis have been ticking for quite a few turns. No credible threats out of that remote. In theory, this is kind of, if PD has the ability to push a play, this is the turn that I think PD really wants to, with Turtle only on 2 counters.
Yeah, I agree with that. There is a paperclip in the bin for 419, but that's the only other breaker that we've seen, I believe. Now,
Yeah, so far.
we are getting Class Act here, and that'll speed things up for 4-9 very quickly. And this lull in tempo that PD is experiencing is exactly what's opened up this window to pay 4 credits to look at 5 cards and keep 4 of them.
So we do, in fact, have an install in the remote, declining to reveal. 16 credits, 2 counters on Turtle, paperclip in the bin. That's the current board state for 419.
I feel like you want to have more than 2 points on the board already if you're PD and the game is in this state.
Agreed. This is the point where you're going to start having to res ice, because either they start challenging a remote or they start diversion of fundsing you, or both.
Right.
Both are very plausible at the moment.
So Boomerang coming down. There's one of Dan B's enormous laser cut
And an
Boomerang
inside
trackers.
job.
Oh yeah. So that remote is crap.
This remote is not a remote this turn, is what we've heard. And it is a Rashida, it is not an agenda, but certainly a Rashida that PD wants to fire.
Absolutely.
And that Boomerang sticks around too. That's
It does.
One
As
of
long
the
as that ice
difficult
does.
things about that turn is Boomerang it still threatens to make that remote trivial.
It absolutely does. And because of the influence spread in this PD deck, there's no Analytic Void or Border Control or something that could render a run unsuccessful and prevent a used Boomerang from returning to the runner's stack.
But well, I'll be honest, sometimes I like that fact. Sometimes I like when the Boomerang doesn't have to get shuffled in, just because shuffling gets tiring.
That's fair.
I know it's not game optimal, but
So here we go. We're taking back at least one Rashida. I didn't see the other card
yeah, neither did I.
with the Spin Doctor.
One thing that we do know about the hand, just from having seen it, there is still a hard-hitting news in hand. It's not currently relevant, but it certainly could be in the future if, for some reason, 419 runs out of gas. However, those 2 Rezekis mean there's a lot of
Rezekis.
gas that's just trickling into the tank every single
And
time.
there are a lot of credits on them as bones. So assets and upgrades that go into the remote or on a central aren't going to tax 419 the way PD might otherwise have hoped.
Agreed. I don't recall if we saw yesterday any Chrysium grids out of this 419, or out of this PD, but that would certainly be a good reason to throw down a misspend. But honestly, just Skunkworks is also enough.
Yes.
You have to pay the 5 or the 2 clicks to get in, but then you don't have to actually pay the money. And there's Turning Wheel. That is a huge card in this matchup.
Yeah, this is just starting to crank the vice here. 419 just has so many different tools on the board now to control the game state.
Chris pondering whether the reveal.
All right.
Yep.
Doctor.
Spin Doctor, res. Also revealed, so the counter goes on to Amakua.
That choice of credit or Amakua token counter is never good. It's a lose-lose if you're the corp.
A hedge fund will help with PD because at the moment PD needs to be able to res, frankly, a lot of ice to keep 419 out of these servers. And that really is the game. Just it is so important to be able to keep 419 out right now because otherwise the amount of just havoc that Miss Bones represents, that Turning Wheel represents, you need to be putting up defenses on all three of the relevant servers right now.
And it does look here like 419 is taking a couple turns to just draw 4, 2 from Zeki's, 1 from that daily cast, and just money up. And I do wonder what they're drawing for here, though.
Yeah. Possibly diversion.
Yeah, could very well be a diversion.
Or possibly ways to break the ice that's currently on HQ.
Yeah, that's also true. More tools, and why not? Because PD is giving you the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, this seems to be a somewhat unfortunate draw for PD, just not getting the econ, not getting the things to jam in the remote at quite the right time.
Yeah,
but
and 419 being able to crack the remote
yes.
on those important turns with the one with the off-world in there, and then again when it was the Rishia.
Yeah.
And clear out the Skunkworks. Having the money to clear out the Skunkworks without eating a hard-hitting move.
Absolutely. Some very crucial turns that have gone 419's way. Unfortunately, I do think, although this strategy is still strong, although Boom and Hard-Hitting News are a strong strategy at Purple, they do make your hand a little clunky sometimes because you have these important cards that need to stick around in the hand if you draw them. But if you draw them too early, they don't do anything effectively.
Yeah, I think that's part of... I think people sleep on Sprint a little bit as a card, because I found it to be a useful tool for shaping your hand, like for decks that like to hold pieces or need to hold pieces in their hand, like this.
Oh, we have a double install and a hedge fund into the remote, so certainly a threatening play here.
So that's 15 credits, and 419 is on, what is that, 17?
17 credits.
So relatively even on money, 3 ice in the remote, 2 cards. But I think I saw earlier that 419 has another falsified in hand at this point. So we may see that come down this turn if I spotted that correctly.
Yeah, I believe you may be correct. Obviously, in this case, you know that one of these is an upgrade.
Right.
I wonder if it's still probably worth trying to spot the agenda and guessing agenda, but you also know for certain that at least one of these cards has to be an upgrade.
Right. With Turtle only on 1 and no other breakers on the board other than the Boomerang and the Paperclip that we know is in the heap, I do think contesting this remote is not super likely.
Yeah, not this turn. Just we know that the Gatekeeper will keep 419 out, and on that note, we see a Gatekeeper keeping 419 out of R&D, drawing some cards. Gatekeeper is a wonderful card because it just turns things into positive tempo. However, this Gatekeeper will be a liability starting next turn because it is always a server that Turtle can get through, get irrelevant access, and charge out.
And in some sense, it's credit neutral for 419 to run that once a turn because they'll drip 2 from Rizeki, pay 2 to break the Gatekeeper, get a Turtle counter, get an access, get a Turning Wheel counter, and then do whatever they need to do for the rest of the game.
The game gets difficult at this point in many ways if you are PD, just because of all of that value that comes out. And there is a big altar, so worried about Drafter Fires, I would have to think, is the concern here. I think that that's correct. I think letting Drafter Fire would be somewhat disastrous. It always is against PD.
Yeah.
If there happens to be, I haven't seen the deck list, but if there happens to be an Ansel, that is also one that you never want to actually let fire.
True. Yes. And I think even though Turtle will probably have more than 3 counters soon, you don't want to run the risk of hitting a drafter and then having a CBS fire.
Oh, we do have a score here. It looks like
Yeah, it
we have
looks
a
like a
seamless
seamless.
launch and advance. That is,
Was that single advance? Was that luminal?
I believe that was, yes, that was luminal because we have the extra clicks coming out. So yeah, that was just a single advance. Good call on that. So 4 clicks to work with here for PD.
Resing, is that Tranquility?
That is Tranquility home grid, so keeping up that tempo. Threatening another score next turn, potentially. Certainly threatening it now with what looks like it is almost certainly a Managon Skunkworks and
Absolutely.
either a Rashida or either some form of bluff or another agenda in this remote.
Yep.
Notably, that does also put PD up to 4 points, which is an important threshold because, as we well know from watching these PD matchups, you have the ability to win from 4 with 2 seamless launches and 1 GFI.
Right.
For good measure, we have another card on the outside. Could be anything, but my guess would be probably a Spin Doctor on the outside.
Does this list have the influence for GFI with all of the other tech that we've talked about? With the, like,
We really
boom
need to get
and
them to
so
give
on?
us the deck lists. True, it could be a Vacheron.
Could be
in theory.
Vacheron.
Yeah. Oh no, you have to downgrade the Vacheron. Both obviously very strong agendas. Vacheron we tend to see a little more in more combo-y lists like the sports, but it is also strong in PD where this remote can get taxing enough that 4 turns could be enough for you to recover enough money, recover enough seamless launches to score, even if they're able to crack the remote and get the Vacheron and put it into their score area.
Right, right.
That is a Project Trevious stolen by 419. So it is now 4-4. These are those value runs on R&D that we were talking about.
Yep. And I think that was a seamless
I believe that was a seamless.
on R&D.
Another turning wheel counter ticks up, so that represents 1 multi-access in a central on a turn where it matters. Notably, that agenda steal, obviously good for the purposes of getting to 4, not good for the purposes of charging up your
All
turtle.
right, players, your 30 minutes starts now.
And in theory, if this is a winning 5-3, the turtle counter might actually matter more.
It might.
Looks like choosing to run R&D, shortcutting there, getting another turtle counter and another turning wheel counter for 2 credits. And we have an inside job onto the remote. So saying 3 counters, that is enough to break drafter. That is an IP block.
Ooh.
IP block gets bypassed, but wow, that would be a strong card to hit right now.
Sure would.
Here is the Gatekeeper on 6 strength. Cat did know about this Gatekeeper. Was revealed earlier. I think forcing Chris to res here, saying, I don't think this is the 5-3 to win.
Right.
And next time that I run this remote, Gatekeeper will be 0 strength, and I can break it no matter what.
There it is, double
But
seamless.
there it is. It is the double seamless and an advancement to score a
It is
Vacheron
Vacheron.
for the win. What a play by Chris. This game looked like it was close to out of... It looked like it was close to not able to contest, but Chris found the right plays on the turn. Oh, and Chris also showing the seamless with a reversed account in the remote. Could have thrown down seamless on that, drained 8 credits, and put Cat into hard-hitting news hell.
I had been wondering what that second face down card was in the open remote.
Yeah.
But we
We
should have thought
missed
of
it.
Well, yeah. You even mentioned reversed earlier on.
Yeah.
We didn't even consider that it might be just sitting out there in the open.
Yeah. Yeah, we're seeing, even in a game where it looked like 419 was ahead, this deck can put you in a fork and it can punish any misstep that you have in the order you find your tools. That's what we are seeing here. So, congratulations to Chris. Very well played. That is an excellent job.
That was a close game.
Very close game. Very well played by both of them. We will be back when the next round starts, but thank you for joining me, Jeff.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll hope you stick around.
All right, we are back for top 8 action in Roseville, Minnesota at the Off the Grid World Championships. We have a matchup this round between 2 players who won their first round. We have Greg Tung playing 419 and Jason Deng playing PD. Let me switch the seats, make sure that they're in the correct. There we go. Now the overlay should be showing the correct thing. So I'm gonna. Do you want to give a quick intro to the players and the matchup? I'm gonna tell them about the field division.
Okay, sure. So we have Greg Tung on the left on 419. I believe just a normal reg list. Greg Tung, former world's runner-up, former lead designer for Nisei, and always killer netrunner player. So no surprise to see him here. On the right, Jason Deng, J-Deng, who has also been around the game for quite some time, member of the anti-test group, and all-around good player. Famous for his power shutdown cosplay at Gen Con.
Yes. Yeah, 2 extremely strong players.
Absolutely.
You can say that about everyone in the top 8, but 2 extremely strong players here in this matchup for you right now.
This was an absolutely brutal field at this tournament, which has become something of a tradition for these OTG events, at least the ones that happen in the summer when people don't mind coming to Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And folks weirdly have some nostalgia about coming back to the game center.
Live from the center.
That's right. And so a lot of folks come, which you've seen. I mean, if you look at the Cobra for this event, I mean, there are lots of players you didn't see on stream, but you may remember, or it may have been announced, that anyone here who is a former World's Top 16 competitor is given a Hunter Seeker medallion, which awards their opponent extra prizes if they should happen to win. So if somebody beats a Hunter Seeker target, they get an extra prize. There are a lot of players here with those medallions.
It was over 1/5 of the field, I believe.
It's yes, it's a lot. It's a lot of people.
Well, and it says a lot that we have. I mean, Dando Genio, obviously one of the strongest players ever
He's
to
the
play
GOAT.
the game.
I mean,
yeah,
there's
the greatest of all time.
There is no qualifying.
In
Not
this
one
top,
of. He's the GOAT.
Yeah, in this top 8, I think this may be the first event that Dan has played in over a year.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
More
And-
than I think.
Yeah. Just seeing how I think people forget how strong some of these players truly are, because he has that ability to, take a year off Netrunner and still make a top 8 in one of the most stacked fields that we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, he's a savant. He can warm up in the first round or 2 of Swiss,
Yeah.
and then once it clicks, watch out.
Yeah, but obviously no slouches whatsoever here. We have
Absolutely not. No.
second
Two
at
great
Worlds, Greg Tung. We have Jason Deng. I believe I think maybe the top finish that I remember from him is he was top of Swiss. I think didn't drop a game in Corp at one Gen Con where he had the late stage railgun deck after almost everything had been thrown on the most wanted list, but still found a way to just kill everyone with boom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here we have, again, a bit of a defining matchup, I think you said, 419 versus PD. We're going to see it again here. I think this is going to be a different 419 versus PD matchup, though, because this is a bit more of a classic PD deck.
Right. Not supporting the hard-hitting newses, not supporting the boom.
Yeah.
Just trying to score out.
Mm-hmm. Look at these playmats, too.
Oh, yeah.
It just shows you how strong these players are, that they have these incredible, near unique playmats.
The tier playmat is glorious. That
I
art
know.
that art by Ligas is truly spectacular, and it warms the cockles of my Cygaming Yomi heart to see Jason still repping Caprice.
In my opinion, easily 2 of the best pieces of art ever made for this game.
100%. Yeah, those are up there in the pantheon. No question. I have a print of Caprice at home myself.
Oh, we have a Bravado coming out onto HQ.
No fear of whatever that ice is.
And no fear was needed. Just goes right through, strolls in, accesses a border control off of HQ. Gain some credits, throw down a missed bones, run the remote, trash Tranquility home grid. Not a bad start, I would say, for
No.
419.
Not a bad start. Is that Eric? No, that's Earthrise.
That is, yeah, and then an Earthrise just to keep the tempo up in future turns.
That is one area where I've struggled a little bit with all of the play being online. I haven't learned all of the alts and promos and full bleeds and stuff that people are using, so it's a little harder to recognize every card.
I agree with you there. I've learned a fair amount through the course of this tournament, and
Sure.
I think that's actually one of the underrated challenges of playing in-person Netrunner, or selfishly, I'm going to say commentating in-person Netrunner is dealing with how many different alt arts there are in this game.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I mean, the community has done so much cool stuff that it's an embarrassment of riches in a way, because it's hard to keep track of all of it. There's just so much amazing stuff out there.
Also, something that I think it's easy to ignore when you're used to dealing with JNet is different ways that people have to track their credits.
Yes.
As we see here, we have the honeycombs, we have the physical, the metal clinker
Yep.
tokens. We've seen FFG tokens, we've seen the other FFG tokens. There's a lot of different ways to track how much money you have in your pool, and it always matters in every matchup how much money your opponent has.
So we had a Rashida Fire out of PD, which is huge this early in the game. That next install in the remote was revealed to the runner, but I didn't see it. Looks like it's a Tranquility home grid.
Or that's Main-Guard Skunkworks, isn't
Oh,
it?
is it?
Yeah, that's a Skunkworks.
Well, that's my mistake.
Yeah, so that's going to certainly make it difficult for the runner to get in here.
So Jason here is doing, I guess, what Chris didn't do previously, which is pre-resing the Skunkworks to avoid having it be falsified.
Yes, and that is a diversion of funds, and it is stuffed by a magnet. So, firing off, deciding risk reward, getting the corp down to 1 credit. I mean, it's like a diversion of funds in a way, in the sense that the corp is now poor, but
Right.
obviously having the resed magnet on HQ, not necessarily what 419 wants.
Not with no breakers on the board, but at least it wasn't a drafter.
True. And with an advancement in the remote, you also know that this cannot possibly be Rashida firing.
That's right, yeah. And I think that was what prompted the Skunkworks res.
Yeah.
Is I'm telegraphing to you that this is an upgrade, so I'm just going to res it so that you can't, on the off chance that you could have gotten paid for it. Now, I mean, that does mean the advanced card is guaranteed to be an agenda, essentially, because
True. Could be an NGO.
does PD run?
This PD potentially could.
Okay. I mean, it could.
I guess Greg would know at that point. Greg would know if any advanced card is potentially a bluff. We have an inside job. Looks like onto the remotes. Chooses not to fire the border control. Loses the Main-Guard Skunkworks and also a Cyberdex Sandbox. So that is 2 points for Greg Tung. So certainly a strong early play, getting into that remote, trashing that Skunkworks, getting that agenda, but also that is one of the important tools to get accesses that has been used already.
That's true.
Yeah, inside job can represent inside job can represent 7 credits in the late game potentially.
It absolutely can. I do think that keeping the corp off that Skunkworks, like stopping that remote from snowballing into something worse later, does have, it may not have been 7 credits of value in terms of ice bypass for now. Ooh, here we go. We've got a
MCA austerity policy.
click that up.
So Greg will have 1 fewer click to work with on this turn. Notably, getting a lot of value off of this click, though, we have a Dirty Laundry into R&D to also gain a credit from Paragon and a Scry. Interesting choice to be on Paragon rather than Penny Shaver. What do you think about that choice?
I think that they're both valid choices, to be honest, which is interesting. I mean, when Penny Shaver came out, it seemed like it would just sort of be in sort of the way that Desperado was kind of the default pick for any criminal. But the clickability does cost you a tiny little bit of tempo relative to Desperado or a card like Paragon, a console like Paragon that also has a passive trigger. And so if you want to just run and never stop to use your click abilities or whatever, Paragon seems totally fine. I'm not a Crim player though, so I can't speak to like the minutia of those choices. I mean,
I'm certainly not a Crim player on the level of Greg Sung, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can speak to his exact choices either.
I mean, I enjoy playing Crim, but I would not say that I've ever been particularly skilled with red Crim decks.
So Jason has effectively clicked the MCA austerity policy up to 2. In theory, could be threatening the score for a 4-2, except that now only down to 3 credits because has to res a magnet to keep Greg out of R&D. Choosing to res that magnet, 1 less credit off Bravado, 1 less credit off Paragon, 1 less scry off Paragon. There's a fair amount of value that you deny by doing that.
Agreed. Do we know what the decoder is in this 419 deck? I'm curious how it stacks up against Magnet.
My guess would be Unity, just based on, I believe that is what most of that testing group has been on.
Okay.
But I also don't know for sure. It could be something else.
And that's going to scale depending on how many other breakers are installed, right?
Agreed. It does. So at the moment, Unity is not very strong because it would be the only breaker in play. Now, Jason has gotten to the point of 5 credits in the pool, 3 counters on MCA austerity policy. That is, there is the potential of a threat of a 5-3 from hand once you're at that point, but
Well,
none
even
of the 5-3s are tempo positive in
no,
HB.
that's right. So, but an off-world office or a sandbox here.
Trick could be a very, very good play. Plus having a click left over to potentially jam another something in that remote.
Exactly.
And that is, in fact, the Unity coming down.
Good guess.
So yeah, Unity not at its strongest against Magnet without another breaker on the board. I think that is that's the break point. It needs that 1-for-2 strength.
There we
And
go.
It's exactly what you just said. Score the off-world office with the MCA austerity policy. Gain 7 credits. 1 click left in the turn. What will Jason do with it?
That's quite interesting. So,
What did Jason just get back?
is that top card advanced assembly lines?
Yes. Advanced assembly lines came out to
There
install
were two
upgrade
on
in
there, and I think he picked one of them up.
Interesting. So just going for a little more value, a card that you don't mind exposing to 419, especially with no turtle on the table, just
Yeah, for
to
sure.
keep that tempo up.
It might also have just been the MCA again. I couldn't tell which.
Oh, it has to be the MCA. Yeah, it was definitely the MCA.
Okay.
So recurring that fast advance tool. So Diversion of Funds does come out, and it does connect. You just gain 7 off-world office, and 5 of those are going to me.
Yep.
Wasn't cheap to get in, but
No.
certainly not cheap for Jason either.
But this is exactly what we were talking about in the earlier game, where it's okay for 419 if they're both broken.
Yep. And honestly, how does that math change with MCA austerity policy? Does it at all?
That is a good question. I think that still, I think that 419 is still okay with a slower game as long as MCA is not being clicked up. I mean, if MCA is being clicked up, you have to do something about it, right? It's a massive threat.
Yeah, agreed.
Against a runner that has no ability to interact with fast advance.
Oh, 2 Rozekis come out. Those are a little late, I think.
Yeah,
in
they
Greg's
are.
opinion.
We're comfortably into the mid game here. They will still pay out, of course, but it would have been nice to have them a couple turns ago.
Agreed. MCA is back. MCA is being clicked up. 1 counter on it. 1 fewer click for 419. 419 drawing for answers with Earthrise.
That may be the reasoning behind using Paragon in this build.
Yeah.
Is that with the game as fast as it is, and the level of variance as high as it is right now, anything that lets you filter what you're going to see is more beneficial than it would have been in, if you think about last year, where people were also playing Rozeki and 419, but they were playing against GameNet.
Very different games, yeah.
And so it didn't matter if you found them on turn 1 or 2 or on turn 7 or 8.
True.
Whereas
True.
now it really matters.
Very true. That's a very good point. So we saw Deuces Wild come out for draw and money. We see Acrisium get trashed. Miss Bones is now officially gone. That is a border control out of HQ. And that is a political operative down. That is potentially a very important card in this matchup.
Yes, yeah. So it does have, this deck does then have an ability to interact with Fast Advance somewhat, because that MCA can go away at any time now.
Yep. Yeah, at any point before the click ability can be popped, you can pop that
That's
political
right.
operative, get rid of it, deny the... At that point, right, the MCA austerity policy is functioning like a fast advance tool here that then gets revert. It's fulfilling much of the same role that a seamless launch normally would for many PD decks.
Right.
But you can deny that in a way with political operative that you can't deny a seamless launch.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting to see if the seamless launch, or if the political operative goes for that, because it does play double duty here. It also can knock out a Mangarm Skunkworks for 1 credit effectively.
It certainly can.
And that, if Greg ends up deciding that that is the better use of that political operative, then so be it. Right now we have a Docklands Pass hit the board, so those HQ accesses will be more powerful. We also have a Begalter on the board, so they will be much cheaper now because Unity only needs 1 pump to get the strength for Magnet. We see 2 Gatekeepers in hand. Not the strongest, given that Unity's already down and already pumping for 2 with every 1 credit.
True. That first res is still going to cost, 6 credits to break?
I believe so, yeah. So still a decent amount of credits, but it's certainly not as strong as it would be if you had not seen a Unity, or if Unity was on one
absolutely.
strength per pump.
That would be then you're
Then they're your best ups.
then you're like MK Ultra against Archer levels of sad.
Oh no! Don't remind me about that. Breaking Archer with MK Ultra was the worst part of Netrunner when you were playing Max.
Even Anansi. So third ice on the remote. Do we think this is one of the Gatekeepers, or do we think it's something else?
Given that Gatekeeper's the only ice we've seen in hand, or I believe we've seen 1 other border control. It could be a
We
border
did see
control.
border control. That's true.
2 border controls on the remote makes it very difficult to actually knock out anything in it that isn't something political operative, which, by the way, we do see political operative has been popped. MCA is off the board.
Yep.
Important to mention that because not only is that obviously a tool gone from Jason, it is a tool gone from Greg. That political operative
Right.
was an important piece of the game, and it is not currently active.
I'll be very curious to see if he has more than 1.
Certainly want it against MCA austerity policy, I have to think. But
You do,
that's a good question.
but-
Do you have it?
But criminal decks tend to be stuffed to the gills.
Yeah.
And the tech cards like the Citadel Sanctuaries and the political operatives usually are 1-up,
Often.
which means that if PD does score another agenda, speaking of which, isn't PD on 2 points?
Oh, yes, I should, yeah,
That
forgot to
Offworld,
update that.
Offworld came off that MCA a while ago.
Yeah, flips 2-2, you're correct.
So if we see a score out of this remote, for example, whatever, if that's a Luminal, perhaps? No, it's a
CBS.
Okay.
Good to know.
But that MCA could come back again, and at that point, 419 might not be able to interact with it anymore.
Yeah, might have to actually break into the remote the old-fashioned way.
I think
Run, click 1, spend the 2 clicks on Skunkworks, or spend the 5 credits, so that gets gross very quickly.
other forward. Oh, go ahead.
Notably, though, there is a paperclip in the bin. We saw that hit the bin last turn, so
Okay.
border control is still a very relevant ice, but it is not just a flat end of the run.
Absolutely. I think if there is only 1 political operative in the deck, the only way to get it back would be if there's a rebirth in this list. A lot of 419s are running rebirth to rebirth into Steve. But of course, Jason could always choose the other card.
Jason did choose to install trashing in the remote, so we know that there is a CVS in archives now.
Okay, just to poison archives. That's
Yeah, but poisoning archives, if at any point, and of course that's exactly why, there is a Cyberdeck sandbox in the remote.
Yep.
At this point, any archives run, if this sandbox gets scored, is worth 4 credits for Jason.
Yep.
Definitely a threatening play here, one that you want to break if you're
Absolutely.
Greg.
So here we have a Bravado.
And that is
Border
a
control.
border control.
So do you just pop this now
It's a good question.
to deny extra Bravado credits, or do you make them run through everything?
Is it worth
It's a-
making them spend the extra money?
Depends
That's a
on
good
what the
question.
middle ice is, I think.
Another thing to note, this is definitely telegraphing Seamless in hand.
True.
Even with Seamless, you still need 3 credits to score, so will not be able to res this ice and also score unless it is a vanilla. So
Right. Yeah, I hadn't considered the credit total. I wonder. It's quite a tricky decision, and I really
No
don't
res here.
know. Yeah.
Looks like going to force
Use the
papers-
border control?
Yeah, use the border control.
Keep those
Border
3
control
credits.
has to pop before Skunkworks under rules 1.5, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you don't have that extra bit of synergy. You can't force the pay 5 or 2 clicks and then still pop a border control. That said, border control is still quite a strong play here because that cost an extra 2 credits, that cost an extra click, and then you still had to hit Mengar Skunkworks at the end of it.
Right.
So Greg's pretty poor now. Yes, that is 4 points. Yes, that is denying the sandbox, but that cost a lot of resources from Greg. And depending on what the follow-up is here, it could potentially be a point that Jason could capitalize on.
Although from 3 credits, it will be a little tricky.
Yeah.
He is in dire need of some kind of economy.
I think so. We see a second Miss Bones here. That makes me think that a second political operative is not likely. And they're packing it up.
I'm guessing.
I think that was a scoop.
I'm guessing Jason Scoop.
Yeah, I believe that was a scoop. We can go over and confirm, but I believe that was a scoop from Jason. Just heading over to the table to confirm exactly what happened there.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I can beat that back, especially before
Yeah, we have confirmation that was in fact a scoop. Jason, did you get more context? Was it just?
He just said he was out of outs.
Yep, out of outs. So another very. So we had 2 games where 419 was able to exert quite a bit of control on the game.
Absolutely.
One ended with PD able to put 419 into a fork, even despite that level of control. This one ended with 419 doing 419 things, and then the game was over.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't sum it up any better than that.
Just going to update that to make it clear that Greg did in fact win that round. So congratulations to Greg Tung. That is 2 wins. In a top 8, that is there's only 1 more game to win before. So if Greg wins the next game, he will be in the grand final. So putting himself in a very good position in this top 8. Jason Deng not out of it though. That is
No.
1 loss. Jason still has 1 loss to give through the cut. And we will keep you updated on how the bracket progresses. We can give some insight on how the previous round went. So, in the previous round, we saw Kat Shen, or Chris beat Kat Shen. Aaron Andrews also victorious over Dan Dargenio in round 1 of the cut.
Yep.
And then the final matchup was. Or there were 2 other matchups, correct? Yeah, there were 2 other matchups. Obviously, Jason Deng won his first round matchup against Spags, and Greg Tung won his first round matchup against Ian Ranji Doge.
Right.
So far, 2 results have come in round 2, both from the upper bracket games. Chris, who we saw in the last matchup, lost against Aaron Andrews. So with the winners finals, or the upper bracket finals, will be against Aaron Andrews against
Greg Tung, right?
Greg Tung. Yes, that will be a very strong matchup.
Let's see if we can get that one on the
Oh,
screen.
and then we have one other result that's come in. So Ian Ranji Doge was defeated by Spag. So Spag stays into the cut. Ian is out 7th/8th, but making the top 8 is just so impressive in this field. So great job by him.
And it looks like Dan and Kessler are still going.
Yeah, Dan and Pat Shen are still playing. So we will keep you updated on that bracket as we get more results. But for now, that is the end of round 2 for the cut for what we have. So we'll be back in a few minutes. We are back in action in Roseville, Minnesota. The top 8. I'm going to update who's on this because obviously this is not correct. One of these names is correct. Jason Deng is coming back this round. We have a matchup in the lower bracket between Jason Deng and Dan Dargenio, who we talked about a little bit in the previous round. We talked about how we believe Dan is the GOAT. Why would you say Dan is the GOAT, Raja?
Well, first things first, he's the 2-time world champion.
No one else has ever done that.
No one else has ever done that. Back to back, if I recall correctly.
That is correct.
So not only has no one ever won it twice, no one has ever repeated. And I think in his run of 4 years, if I remember correctly, he was first, 17th, and 3rd. I don't know if that was the right order.
I believe you're correct, yeah.
But that is a run that is, I mean, it's unrivaled in the history of the game. That's not to disparage any of the other very, very good players that we have had. We have had many worthy champions at our Worlds and at other large tournaments. But if you have to just pick one, my money's always going to be on Dan.
Agreed. There are some extremely strong players in the history of this game, but I agree. Just that run is extraordinarily... I can't even find the right adjective for it to describe the exact level of dominance that displays in a card game. I mean, let's not forget, you have to shuffle your cards every single game. You have to deal with variance. You have to deal with the wide variety of strategies and play patterns that you see in Netrunner. The ability to excel at that top level of the game that much for that long.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We also see that there's going to be some good banter between these players, already tossing around the sports medal ID across the table. These two players, Dan and Jason, have known each other for a long time, played against each other for a very long time in this game, so nice to see old friends meet up for some cards and ID tossing.
Yeah, we warmed up when we were delayed outside the Zenter this morning.
Yep.
We warmed up with some Crokinole.
Yeah.
And they were on opposing teams. I was teamed up with Dan, and Andres was teamed up with Jaydeng. And we ran the table.
Very hard fought match. I was there spectating some of it.
They were close.
Yeah.
There were many close games, but Dan's a shark.
One of the benefits of having open deck lists, you don't have to worry about revealing hidden information. You can just show your opponent how bad your hand is.
You can.
And both players taking the opportunity to do that, neither of them happy with their opening hands. We're going to see 2 mulligans here. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. This sports deck mulligans pretty well. There are so many interchangeable parts, so many different ways that you can get an agenda, a fast advance tool in the same opening hand. Your mulligans are better than many corp decks mulligan.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's really quite a resilient ID. All of the various shells that we've seen played out of it in various iterations of standard that have when it's been competitive, the sports loop combo lists, all the way through to these current Audacity focused and Tranquility Homegrid Vacheron lists. All of those decks have been fairly resilient, just because there's a lot of redundancy in the pieces that you use to win. The sports loop ones may be slightly less so because you really leaned on that Arella. But as far as the fuel that you use to get started, because sports is fueled by its agendas on its ID, you have a lot of flexibility in what kinds of hands are good.
And we start off immediately. This is the vanilla that we saw in HQ, blocking a Bravado here. Bravado just gaining 3 credits, and that is a mega pre-qualifier starting off the game. So 1 point on the first turn of the game for 419, but
not the 1 point that you wanted.
Not the 1 point that you want, and arguably that's better for Dan than it is for Jason, because that is 2 cards directly into Dan's hand, when clearly Dan wanted to draw cards, was spending clicks manually drawing.
Absolutely.
So. And we have a lateral growth. Jason reminding Dan that he has to reveal that card. We have a biotic. And we have a score for a mega pre-qualifier. That is 2 points. Take that. You have 1 point. I scored the same agenda. I have 2.
Sports.
Sports is sportsin'. And choosing to gain money off of that score, oftentimes, we actually had Ian on our podcast to mention that always draw off of that, but when you're on 0 credits,
Yeah, I think after a
Yeah.
biotic labor, the 2 credits
Yeah.
is pretty reasonable. Those
It
biotic
is.
scores are expensive.
well, and it's especially relevant because there were 2 really important thresholds, and actually really 3 with lateral growth. There are 3 important thresholds for this sports deck. One of them is 7 credits, that's biotic waiver with no frills attached to it.
Right.
One of them is 5 credits, that's lateral growth into biotic waiver. And one of them is 1 credit. That's all it takes with an Audacity.
Right.
So having those 2 credits is, as strange as it might sound, threatening a score out of sports.
Yeah, especially with the vanilla on HQ, so we know that there's going to be no doof incoming until we see an Amakua.
That's correct. So we see a falsified revealing a Tranquility home grid in the remote. We have the Miss Bones there to get rid of that Tranquility home grid should Jason be able to get through the ice on the remote.
Right.
Choosing to run R&D to start with. Get the Paragon trigger. That credit, that scry. As you talked about Paragon being able to filter with fast games, if there is any fast game, it is absolutely this sports deck.
It sure is. And 419, even 419's ability to slow things down, sports is surprisingly resilient to.
Right, as we talked about, those credit thresholds, you're usually scoring things directly out of your hand. You don't have to worry about revealing an agenda, it's just going into your score area. And if it's not going into your score area, it's because you want it to go into the runner's score area.
And unlike MCA, which we saw in the last round, 419 doesn't have the tools to interact with sports' scoring pieces, Audacity, combo, fast advance pieces,
Correct.
Audacity, Biotic Labor, not relying on those res cards. The Tranquility home grid is nice, and you could snipe that with the political operative, but other than that, no imp, nothing like that.
Yeah,
in
no
these lists.
embezzle in most of these 419 lists.
Right.
Even so, there is a tool in faction, but it is not very commonly played.
No, I think the player's view seems to be, at least from talking to people, again, not as a particularly strong crim player myself, is that the variance is just too high.
Yep, exactly.
With 2 cards out of normally a 5-card HQ.
Ooh. That is a lateral just to install some ice. It is going to get exposed. We can't see it, but Jason can.
Does get him up to 4 credits.
Yep. 4 credits, certainly. That
And
I don't
now-
believe that there's any ice that you can't res with that much money for
Not
the
in this
sports
set.
deck.
Yeah, and now on 5
Yep.
after that.
So
for credit.
that is 2 laterals used, but 5 is still one of those breakpoints that we talk about.
Right.
No points out of R&D so far. Tranquility home grid gets revealed again just for some extra money for Jason.
So he's on 11 now, looks like?
11 credits for Jason, that's correct.
But he needs cards, and we
Yep.
see that he's drawing.
Drawing a storm. Tranquility gets rezzed. That is a Vitruvius in the remote. That is
Single advance
an
and then
Audacity. All of those cards will go into the trash. Vitruvius will go into the score area. It is now 4-1 sports. And I think it's safe to say that this is a bit of the danger zone.
Very much so. Very, very much so.
For-
Because sports is still on 5 credits.
There's a turtle.
Okay, there
Turtle
we go.
is this. Turtle's how you start getting back into this. I
Absolutely.
think. Because as you saw off of sports, even though Audacity just binned all of those cards, still 2 cards in HQ, still potentially valuable accesses there.
That's right.
And obviously, being able to diversion of funds 419, or 419 being able to diversion of funds sports, it does not completely keep sports out of it. Sports can score for 1 credit, but there are only so many Audacities in the deck.
Right.
They have to have it. Runs archives, does find
in
an
there?
agenda. That is a Project Vacheron. So it will eventually be 3 points, but it is not 3 points yet.
Hold on, no, isn't the ability ignored when it's from...
Oh, you're right.
Archive?
The ability is ignored from Archive, so that is just 3 points.
He needs to read that card.
Dan needs to read that card. So does Jason.
Also they both need to read
They
that
both
card.
need it. We're not supposed to call the judge just because we're streaming the.
I don't think...
We're not supposed to call the judge just because we're streaming the table, but. Oh well, that is an unfortunate miss by both players at that table.
Yeah. We'll see if it ends up being relevant. Now, there's a die on one of those. Oh, that's a Mega Free. Oh, here we go.
Oh, we have a judge call.
Judge calling a question.
Let's see if this is about the Vacheron.
That's the third lateral there?
That is the third lateral. Does not appear to be about the Vacheron. I think they just missed that clause. That's unfortunate. Hopefully that does not end up being relevant. That would be a shame, for sure.
Yeah, agreed. After...
It's also a sign that you should read cards.
It is, yeah. It is, I certainly noticed, my only goal yesterday in the Swiss was to remember as many of my triggers as possible of the ones that are automated by Jinteki.net.
Very nice, yeah.
Which, because I was playing Virus Max, was most of them.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we're seeing some of that. Even in these games at this level, you know, a lot of these players, myself included, haven't played Paper Netrunner in a very long time.
Now, Turtle was up to 3 counters. Turtle was able to break Magnet. Turtle did break Magnet. Diversion of funds got Dan down to 0 credits.
That's big.
It is. 0 credits, you can't quite score from 0 as sports. Unless you have a, you can't quite do it. Now, that is a Tranquility home grid.
There's 2 credits. Or not?
Right, Tranquility home grid counts itself. So. Now, that is 3 credits for Dan. After the Hyperloop gets scored. 3 credits, 2 cards, so Jason is on 2 points, soon to be 5.
Right.
In a few turns. So, although Jason was in the danger zone, a few slow turns from Sports. Sports has not been able to score out, and obviously some of that slowness due to the fact that Jason has been interacting, getting this diversion down, exactly the sorts of pressure that you need to apply if you're 419.
Yeah, the turtle was huge, and then the doof coming soon after that was huge.
Yeah. And let's see, is Dan going to try to stop these accesses on R&D?
From 3 credits, it's gonna no Tranquility Grid. So
it is a Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper will fire.
There's a Biotic, an Agenda, and I didn't see the 3rd card.
Yeah, neither did I. Looks like a fair number of cards are getting shuffled back in.
Shuffle back 3 Agendas.
Yep, 3 agendas getting focused. So a decent amount of
He
fun.
was meant to have revealed those before shuffle.
Oh.
Well, he can. I mean, he can. He could probably just. Well.
Let's see how this.
We'll let them rule it.
In the cut, I believe that's. Oh, and he was trying to shuffle back cards that are not agendas. Okay,
no.
it's a very unfortunate way for the game to end.
Dan, we were just talking about how he was the GOAT, but sometimes you get a little sloppy.
Yep, a little sloppy here. Some mistakes on the Vacheron, mistakes on the Gatekeeper. Unfortunate break for Dan, for sure. Oh, and Jason revealing that there is a black file in hand to make sure that Vacheron ticks down, and it would only take 1 2-pointer at that point. So Jason probably ahead even with that Gatekeeper fire, even if Dan resolved that in the correct way. So unfortunate that the game ended that way, but I think the ultimate result would have been the same. Probably.
Yeah, I do think that given the board state, I mean, especially if he had remembered not to put those counters on the Vacheron, so he would have been at 5 points.
Yeah, that's probably that's
he was.
I'm glad it didn't come down to that, but
Yeah,
man, that was a
absolutely.
big mistake. We should go over and tell them that so that they make sure that they know how that interaction works
That's
in the
a fair
future.
point.
All right, we will be back in Roseville, Minnesota. That is a win by Jason Dang. Dan Dargenio makes it to the cuts, is out in 5th/6th, but excellent performance by Dan. And we will have more action in Roseville starting in the next round.
You can lead us in.
All right, we are back in Roseville, Minnesota. I am just getting the details of the players typed in. How that last, how the bracket ended up in the last round. Spags is eliminated; he is out, and as we saw on stream, oh god, who lost that game? As we saw on stream, Dan Dargenio is out. So, excellent run for both of them, but this is the end of the line for them. In this round, we are going to have Chris McLennan or Tzing Ling playing Counter Surveillance Xayah. You saw this deck yesterday in action. Very exciting matchup, a very exciting deck to see. And on the other side is Jason Deng playing PD, which is the MCA austerity policy PD that we saw just a few rounds ago. So players are just starting off the game. I'm joined this round by Ian, aka Ronji Doge, aka Rongi Dog, aka I've never pronounced that word the same way twice.
AKA out of the cut. AKA don't dirty laundry a Crisium grid. AKA count your credits before they hatch.
So, obviously, an important thing to note there, did in fact make the cut at this extremely ludicrously stacked event. So, excellent run by you. It always sucks to get bounced out of the cut, but like making it here, good lord, man.
Thank you.
You fought through a lot. You fought through some serious competition getting to the point that you got to.
I started day 1, and 3, and had to win out. So on one hand, I'm lucky to be here, but on the other hand, losing feels horrible, and I would have rather not played at all. I'm half kidding.
Well, both of these decks are starting off doing kind of what we've seen them do so far. So, PD with Tranquility Home Grid rezzed, threatening to make some money, threatening to just make this, in this case, actually drawing cards. So gaining tempo just for installing, and we already have a rogue trading on the board for Chris. So starting to stack up those tags, starting to stack up that money. But Jaydang is going to take the turn, spend the remainder of the turn to spend 4 credits and trash those 2 resources.
I mean, it's a good move
Yeah,
to trash the rogue
9, 12
trading
credits,
for sure.
yeah.
Also, at the beginning of the game, the filtering is really valuable with the Class X, so I can see the argument for it. But at the same time, probably the Class X hard to trash.
Yeah.
Hard to spend that tempo on. He was pretty rich. And it's interesting because he took the draw off the Tranquility Home Grid, so I don't
Agreed.
know if he was looking for probably more ice if I had to guess.
That
That's
is
cool-
a Cyberdex. This
a
is a
great
jailbreak, so seeing 2 cards here. Cyberdex is a great early pull for sure.
I didn't know that Chris was Zinchling. We've
Yeah.
played on JNet more than a few times.
Yep. Very regular player, very good player. That's no fluke whatsoever that he's in the top 8 here. Just extremely strong. Oh, getting an early turtle down. I think this is the first time that we've seen Chris with early pressure of the turtle sort. The game that he was on stream yesterday, it was sort of the slow build, get the tags, get the money, disrupt where you can with a few tools, but here actually having the early turtle, and finds an MCA austerity policy in HQ with 2 credits.
What was
Heartbreaking.
What was installed? What's with the turtle?
Hard to see from here because of the glare.
It was an alt too. I'm gonna go
It
check.
wasn't all, yeah, thank you. So Rashida does fire, not behind ice, just out there on the Tranquility Home Grid. As we've discussed, firing a Rashida early as PD feels a little bit like cheating. It's just such a strong tempo play. All of this money, all of these cards, providing what looks like probably a server for an MC austerity policy, if I had to guess.
So it's a chunk in the Dunk Sneak Door Beta that just
Ooh.
went in, that hit the board.
Sneak Door Beta.
It's actually a really tough spot for Jaydang if he has any agendas in hand at all. So I could see him shoving into this remote. I would assume that there are inside jobs in Zinchling's list. And with 1 ice on that remote, it really can fall apart to Crim. So this is a nice fork. Looks like he's running a lot of centrals and
Ooh.
just picking up agendas.
Yep, so that is already 4 points for Chris. Yeah, that is already 4 points for Chris. Some very good early snipes off of this R&D that Jaydang has not been able to actually protect. Interesting. So we see an MCA austerity policy in HQ. That tells me either there were 2 MCA austerity policies, or this remote is in fact an agenda.
It would be like
Because of exactly what you described with the sneak door beta.
okay, so he put a skunk in the remote, and he rezzed it. I mean, that might have been a run on the remote.
Oh, that is a seamless launch. And that is a Cyberdex purging the turtle down to 0. Do you mind going and telling them to get the agendas on camera?
Sure.
Because right now we can't see them. The score is 4-2 in favor of Xayah. The purge coming out from the Cyberdex, money gained off the Cyberdex, so very strong tempo game so far on the side of PD, but very strong tempo game so far on the side of PD, but you know, Xayah's still ahead, and Xayah threatening just the way that this deck is. PD needs to win quick, because if you allow a counter surveillance for, honestly, even 5, like the first counter surveillance for 5 would be such an incredibly strong play because of Xayah.
So definitely Xayah's ahead when you have like all this pressure and you have your turtle
Crashes
down.
the MCA too. That is a fantastic find
So
in HQ.
the only thing that that Jidang has going for him, and it's not nothing, is first of all, Xingqing's on 1 tag, and he doesn't have any other tag generation down, so it's going to be hard to build up for that counter surveillance. And second, he's broke. He's broke as a joke. He doesn't have any money. So I mean, he can continue to pilfer, but the more the tempo that he spends going for that 6th point, just trying to hunt down that 6th point, the more time Jason has to kind of stabilize. I mean, he needs ice. And a gatekeeper was just accessed at a HQ. That's almost certainly going on R&D or archives, depending on if there are agendas in hand. Although if there is an agenda in hand, I'm sure it's just going to go
Just pop that
straight
in
in the remote.
yeah. Well, and something that we've seen out of Jason's list that is, he's very heavy on magnets. I believe there are 2 or 3 magnets in this PD list. So definitely turtle on 3 is very relevant for that, from that perspective. But gatekeeper probably just went on R&D, and turtle on 3 will not break that. Now, a rogue trading goes down. Rogue trading gains 6. That is definitely a good thing to get. Might not be the gatekeeper on R&D then.
That's a very good find for Xingqing. Also, I think Xingqing is not taking his. Oh, there it is. Okay, so he's got the money.
There we go, Xayah
He
money.
gets 2 accesses because of the Crisium, so he gets $2 from
Yep.
Xayah, which is very good. That rogue trading is not long for this world. That's absolutely getting trashed by Jason. in the next turn.
100%. Jason on 14 credits. You spend 2 of those to deny
100%.
12.
I mean,
Yeah.
especially with Xingqing on 8, it's not something that you can really allow. I think he's really just got nothing. Okay,
I don't know if Chris actually ticked up the tags. Should be on 2 tags now.
yes, that's right.
Yeah. That is one of the things about Netrunner. Okay, did notice the tag.
Yep.
So one of the things about playing Netrunner in person is you don't get these automations. We've seen. Honestly, I don't even think more than you would expect. But you know, a few human errors here and there throughout the course of the weekend, which are it's just part of Netrunner too.
When you've been playing online for a year and a half, I mean, you're going to miss triggers. It's just going to happen,
But
even at an event like this.
You
That
miss
looked
that
like
is a seamless in
yeah.
hand. So
then
seamless in hand,
trashing
and
the
trashing the Crisium.
Which
Gaining 2 back.
the turtle's getting up there in counters, so that makes sense, especially because you can farm turtle counters right now with Sneak Door and set up for a doof, which is honestly with Jason on 13.
Oh, looks like this. I just saw two quicks get moved. This. Okay,
yeah,
that's
he's
for counters.
accessing
That's for counters.
the seamless twice, and then
A
hot pursuit.
hot pursuit into HQ.
Money tags. What more can you ask for?
Definitely a good reason to clear out that Crisium. We actually saw in an Acme game earlier today, Crisium got res just to deny a hot pursuit. Like stuffing a dirty laundry, but obviously much better because the tag is extremely good for Xayah as well. Jason, Jadang does not res the ice. This is just a free get into HQ, see the card you've already seen, get your tag, get your money. And Xingqing is back in the money at this point.
Yep. So this was a really good bounce back. It depends on how quickly the deck can generate tags, but Xingqing's also in the driver's seat, up 4 points to 2, with 3 tags and a lot of money, which is like very, very good. But
this is a bit of a tricky situation for Jason because obviously this turtle on 7 counters says your remote does not exist. But Jason can't take the turn to purge because then you just get everything that you drew off Rashida sniped by Sneak Door Beta.
So he can. It would be bold to put an agenda into the remote right now, unless he's backing it up with maybe a CBS. I mean, he could be setting up a purge. Yeah. Okay. So that might be a CBS and an agenda. In the
very well
remote.
could be CVS. Yeah.
That's going to be net
Quick
one
one is
credit.
running the remote.
Okay, so
That
it's
is a void.
Just as good, honestly.
Oh no, not an ice with strength 6.
Do you know the other breakers that Zinchling is playing?
I saw them, but I don't remember them.
Okay.
I believe Paperclip is one of them. I believe Unity might be one of them. Oh no, it's Amina because Credit Kite can get it for free.
So the other problem here for Jason is he doesn't have too many cards in hand for the Void. So this might be so he can get the border control. So I don't think Zinchling can get in
Yeah.
twice because
Chris
he doesn't
is-
have the money.
Agreed. Yeah, Chris is deciding: is this 2 clicks? Is this 5 credits?
So if he spends the 5 credits, he can get in again. It can't be border control, or sorry, it can't be voided, and then you can border control. Then you can click get through the gatekeeper and like let the draw sub fire if you want. I think you have enough money, but then you can't trash anything in the hell remote,
Yes.
and you're set back a massive amount. So,
Right. So I think the question is, how good is making void fire here? I'm not sure. This is a tough decision point.
I think there are 3 cards in HU, so we knew that there was 1 and it was a seamless. Then there was Sheet of Fire, 2 cards, 1 in the remote.
Spends 2 clicks on Skunkworks.
Okay.
Oh,
wow.
and that is just getting in.
He didn't fire it.
Wow, did not fire void, was not worth the card, was not worth the credits.
That's wild. I mean, so there were
Wow.
5 cards in hand to start. 2 went into the remote, so there were 3 cards in hand. One of which is a seamless, which means there must be another agenda in HQ. Otherwise, why wouldn't he fire the?
You would think, yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, that Rashida might have drawn Jason into just a bad set of cards. Now, Chris is once again poor. Only 3 credits there.
There's the purge.
Getting purged for positive tempo, removing all of those kind of from Turtle. Now, with enough money to res ice on every server, and with ice on every server, so it might be difficult for Turtle to start building back up. Chris might have to both draw cards to find breakers and gain money.
But at this point, Zinchling's got the time. Because
Yeah.
6-2, all he needs to do is
6-2,
touch
yeah.
one more agenda. He can draw, find breakers,
I
find
think
money.
crucially also the purges will only ever be 4 credits. They will never be worth 8 or 12.
He can slam down another class act and just draw through another 10% of his deck.
Yeah, it's crazy how much of your deck you draw when you have Class Act in your Zaya.
Miss me, Earthrise, hit me, class act. Looks like Crazy him and 2 more cards in the remote.
Certainly what it looks like, at least. Can't be a Chrysimian in the remote, or if it is, that's a game loss.
We've seen it already at the top table. Why not another?
We have.
Classic Jason, just game lossing himself instead of his opponents. Playing at a pretty brisk pace, which is
Yeah.
also slightly out of character. Is that a
That is a
gatekeeper?
sneak door run, and that is a gatekeeper, which will full fire.
Interesting to see how many cards he draws.
Draws the full 3,
And,
and
does not
keeps
shuffle
all
away.
of them.
I'm really surprised that there was no Void Fire that other turn.
Me too. Yeah.
We're reading cards. Oh, Jason is now probably saying that he doesn't have to shuffle. You do have to shuffle even if you shuffle back 0. So this should be a shuffled R&D. Yep.
I don't think that materially matters in terms of changing. Like, I don't think there's any knowledge about cards that are in specific parts of R&D. but
Correct.
It does save shuffling.
Correct. I mean, in APAC, I was playing against someone who I didn't want to draw any cards off Gatekeeper. They kept running through the Gatekeeper, but I had to keep shuffling R&D to get fresh accesses on top. It worked out. It was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. It's the idea of equivocation without putting the card in your
Exactly.
opponent's hand.
Corp equivocation.
Ooh, here we go. That is a seamless launch. That is an advance. That is an advance.
Okay,
And
we
that
got
is an
an off-world.
off-world office. So that is 6-4. And still keeping up the tempo on Jason's side. Still above 10 credits, up to 13 at the moment versus 5
I
on
didn't
Chris's
see what
side.
he took back. I don't think that that's a seamless on top of archives. So
Yes,
likely that he
took back the seamless.
Okay.
Yeah, took back the seamless.
Makes sense.
Right, obviously that's the classic thing to take back because you keep up that never advance threat, and especially on 4 points, you keep up that seamless advance threat.
Does Crisium stuff? What's it called? Counter surveillance.
It does. Counter surveillance requires a successful run. So a bit surprised not to see it on R&D, honestly.
Well, I mean, that kind of maybe telegraphs that there's agendas in HQ,
Yeah.
but also it's got especially equity in this matchup against Doof against Hot Pursuit.
Very fair. Yeah. Yeah, and we did see a Hot Pursuit come out the turn after it was trashed, so did at least stop that card for a bit. So that is... I just blanked on the card that we saw.
It was a seamless.
Literally just okay, so
access
saw
to
the seamless.
Crisium and
Access
not
to Crisium.
trashing the Crisium. Interesting.
Potentially wants the turtle counter. Potentially just says there's not planning on making any require successful runs on HQ.
Yeah, it depends on the makeup of HQ.
Yeah.
And then, because you still don't know the ice on HQ, that could be an Ansel, it could be a Bran.
Right.
Probably not a Gatekeeper at this point. Maybe
Probably
a Drafter.
not. Yeah. Chris continuing to draw.
Throws away
This
the Doof.
card's a diversion of funds, so I guess that's probably why it's not worth trashing the Crisium and also playing the Doof through an IC that you don't know. I think is the thought there.
Exactly. Also, it's 2 clicks, and PD can score out from really low credit totals, drawing instantly. So
then
this
drawing.
is hypothetically presenting lethal,
Right.
double seamless into an advancement on a
What do you
GFI.
think about the choice to draw versus getting credits? I guess you don't have to res much ice here.
So it depends on how much leveling that you're doing. Like you could
Yeah.
say, like, I'm drawing to try to pretend like you're not looking for the second seamless if you already have it in your
Mm-hmm.
hand. But you could also be looking for more. So another ice on archives.
Could
and-
be trying to reduce density.
right. But then you installed 2 pieces of ice, and so in HQ,
Yeah. Bravado into HQ, it looks like.
I think this is a really reasonable play. I
Yeah,
mean,
agreed.
especially with that play pattern. On 11, there's a lot of ice you can res, and a lot of one counter on the turtle. Okay, so if it's an Ansel, this can get clicked through pretty easily, but you still are only accessing 1 card.
Yeah. Has not found Dock 1 pass of any sort. We see a CVS res. We see a CVS pop.
So that's 1 net. Is that a border control?
Yeah, border control. And that will end the run.
Still gain 6 off the Bravado. This is really
Jason will gain 1.
signs pointing to agendas in hand.
Yeah, yeah. I think also potentially pointing to just limit accesses on the last turn of the game. This also.
Assuming it is the last turn.
I would be worried that this is the last turn of the game if I were Chris, I think.
That's what the feeling of it, the tension of it feels like.
Yeah.
But it's also easy to get wrapped up in that. I mean,
It very easily could just be flood too.
he would have
Yeah.
to have found another seamless, and it's by no means impossible. I mean, it's very possible he's got it in hand, and it's very possible that's a GFI.
Well, and I think it's also the second ice on archives makes me think more that it's agendas in HQ.
To block the sneak door, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Zingling's in trouble just from a breaker perspective because there's nowhere to farm counters. So he
Yep.
actually can't get in.
Well, it depends what the second ice is on archives. If that is an ice that is resable, good to res here, and greater than 0 strength, then yep, that's not great in terms of getting counters. Need to actually find breakers.
I mean, it would have to be exactly the gatekeeper, and even then you still couldn't get in this turn.
yeah.
Because I think every other ice has strength in this matchup.
So drawing for answers.
Drawing a doof, that's not going to help.
Yeah, Doof will not get through for 2 reasons.
You can find boomerangs.
3 actually.
You can find inside jobs, assuming those are in the list. Again, I haven't looked at it.
Discards credit kiting as well. Just no way to get into centrals right now.
Heyo. Yeah, they don't open till 11.
Yeah, for those following along at home, we started off a little later than we intended today. We meant to start off at about 10:30, but the game Zenter here in sunny Roseville, Minneapolis, did not actually open until 11, despite the fact that they told us that our booking began at 10. So
It was supposed to begin at 10. I think
It was supposed to begin at
the
10.
opener no-showed, no-call, no-showed, which is a pro move. That's a max move. I respect it. And we hung it outside and debated playing the cut in the street. It would have been fun.
we wouldn't have been able to stream it, so I'm glad for the sake of everyone at home that we were able to actually get into the Zenter and stream it
So
eventually.
there's actually a wedding going on at the Doubletree, former Nay Radisson. So if we'd been able to play the cut there and just really ruin those poor people's weddings with just
Tomfoolery.
ridiculous net running.
Yeah. Oh, and we have an advancement in the remote.
Do we know how many NGOs Jason's on, if any?
I have not seen the lists.
Neither have I. We are prepared commentators. This is professional streaming.
Well, for what it's worth, there wasn't a Google Doc for us to
Alright.
easily switch over to.
What if Jason just like slow rolls 2 seamlesses into a GFI right now? Just goes into the tank.
Well, this is representing lethal still with only one seamless. So
for next turn, yeah.
yeah, for next turn, yes, exactly. And shoring up R&D and a card on the outside.
I mean, it's got to be a Spindo because otherwise you don't.
would think so,
You don't
yeah.
ever let Turtle get counters.
Yeah. Yeah, Turtle getting counters is the way that you potentially lose if you have agendas in HQ because only one counter needed for Turtle to break that border control.
Yep. Which is like excruciating depending on the list. Is that? I don't know what that is.
I can't quite see it. Do you mind checking what
Sure.
it is? Looks like it is a Begalter. It's a Begalter, it looks like.
Was it Begalter?
And
That's
we
correct.
have a jailbreak onto R&D.
So there's-
knowing that there is Begalter can at least break that drafter. So just hope and a prayer that this outside is something that you can break with Turtle at
So
0.
best case
Or
scenario,
Begalter.
it's like a Bram for
Yeah.
Jading. Although,
Yeah.
so can you score out? No. From 2, if it's a 5-3, you cannot.
Correct. You would need 2 seamlesses to do that.
So thinking about it, I mean, the possibilities that this ice are, if it's an Ansel, you can't res it and still score out. If it's a Bran, you can't res it and score out. I don't know what else it could be.
Magnet. But I think that's a snap res. You instantly res
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this is given that Jason is in the tank.
And he might also be thinking about protecting the remote. This is click 3.
True.
There is. Oh no, because if it's click
Well,
3 and
if-
he's got
if
a border
you-
control on the remote,
yeah.
he can just pop it. So
Yep.
the remote is safe. And so he's thinking about scoring out next turn. It is
CVS, or Macrophage, rather.
Macrophage, which, yeah, I mean,
I'm surprised that that was so long in the tank. That tells me this probably is not a 5-3 in the remote.
that's what it suggests to me as well.
Yeah.
The purge goes off.
Yep. So gaining back that money.
Yep.
Probably going to see this Amakua trashed, removed from the game, and torn up physically in real life. I believe that's what the last
Maybe?
sub is.
I don't know because you can get into HQ. I think he might pay through this, pay through the 3 to trash a virus because then you can get into HQ if you whiff on this access.
How much does Jadang pay into the end the run trace, I guess is the question.
So Jading's on 7, I think, and Zinchlin's on looks like 9. So if Zinchling pays into this
Might
trace,
be 8, actually, on Jason's side.
I mean it's all relevant right now. So so let's say Zinchling pays into the trace, he's on 6. That means that Jading can lock him out with the trace 1 sub.
But we do see Turtle trashed and RFG'd.
No, because you let him lock you out and then you just run back.
Yeah.
Because he put all his money into it. So you pay the 3, you're on 6, you bounce, you run back, you pay the 3 again, you're on. I know, I guess you can't do it because then you'd be on 3, 2 with the trace 1, and then you can't break the drafter.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, unfortunately, Macrophage is just very strong here, costing net -1 credit.
Okay, so let's assume,
On res.
let's pretend that's a 5-3 in the remote, and we know it's a 5-3. Then and that you need 4 credits to score. So if you boost this to trace 6, then Zinchling can't break the drafter. But I don't think that Jason has 10 credits. I think he's got either 9 or 8, which means that you can't boost it to stop Zinchling from breaking the drafter.
Yeah. So Jailbreak could miracle an agenda here for the win.
It wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily be crazy.
Well, yeah, right. Maybe not miracle. Miracle
Yeah.
might be a strong word, but could certainly snipe one here.
And then if that is the Spindo on the outside, we would expect to see it rezzed and then some chaff shuffled back in.
Yeah, absolutely. Give yourself the chance to lower that density. Oh, we are seeing
Okay,
a
so
trace 5,
yeah,
so exactly enough to break that
that
drafter.
drafter.
Nothing left
Get 2
afterwards,
back.
other than these 2 that you
Yep.
get back from Begalter.
And he's got exactly the 4 he would need, looks like. Draws off the Jailbreak, no shuffle back with the Spindo. If it is a Spindo, then that's game.
Oh, that is a GFI off the top. Congratulations to Chris. Wow. So staying at 4 to be able to score out ended up.
If it is in the remote, which it must be at this point.
Well, it's only 3 with Seamless, right?
Well, let's
Because
see. Let's
Seamless
see. Let's see.
advance
There we
advance.
go. Oh, you're right.
And
3.
it was.
Oh.
It was. Wow.
So Jason can't do math, and I can't do math either because I said it was 4.
I mean, I just accepted that. I just went along with 4 too. So.
Netrunner's an easy game. Is that a spin dough? Oh, we don't know.
I don't think we actually got to see it. But... Wow. So well played by Chris, playing to the outs, getting a crucial access on the last turn of the game to win 8-4.
Great game. Dynamic, fun. Bluffing was involved.
Agreed. Tags used as a non-binary resource.
Exactly. Very fun indeed. Positive tempo agendas, very fun. It's fun to draw cards, it's fun to score agendas, it's fun to make money. Both of these decks do that.
Yeah. And it's also we didn't get to see it this game, but I have heard that in the Swiss, Chris landed a 26 tag credit perfect counter surveillance to end a game.
I'm sure a lot of math was done, aka zero math. You just
Yep.
assume that you're going to get it. And
If I understand correctly, at one point a ping was res during that just to try to throw the math off, but ended up credit perfect.
you would think that there's such a thing as too many tags, but in fact, no, there's not. There's not such a thing as too many tags. And also a great meta read to realize that there was absolutely zero high-profile target at this event, just none whatsoever.
No high profile to it. No, none whatsoever.
Just play boom.
Absolutely zero.
Oops.
So that Chris will continue playing. Chris will now play Aaron Andrews in the lower bracket finals to see who gets into the grand finals to face Greg.
So see who has the privilege of losing to Greg in the grand finals. Let's make this very clear.
Well, we'll see what happens, I suppose. But we'll be back shortly with the Chris versus Aaron matchup. In the meantime, going to sign off here, give ourselves time to rest our mics.
Thank you
or
for having
rest
me,
our,
Pants. This was a dream.
Yeah. Thank you for being on.
Fabio wearing an eye patch.
That is an image from the Creative Commons.
Okay.
We are back for top 8, or at this point top 3, Netrunner in Roseville, Minnesota. We have a matchup this round between Chris McLennan, or Tzinchling as you might know him on Slack, or JNet or other places, and Aaron Andries. Two players who have been playing the game for a very long time. You know Andries better than I. Do you want to give a quick intro of Aaron Andries to those who have not seen him on stream yet?
Right, Aaron Andries, also known online
Sorry,
as...
I should probably introduce you first.
Sure.
I'm joined by Stax.
Hello.
Who needs no introduction.
No, apparently someone told me I'm a legend. I'm not going to go by that, but Aaron Andries, also known online as A. Andries, hard to recognize handle. Basically, we started playing together in 2012. We were like, coffee shop games. He was my testing partner, and we both are still playing, obviously, and both had a pretty long and good career, and just still enjoy the game.
Yeah. Aaron has made World's Top 16 at least once?
I think 4 times.
4 times.
24
Way more than at least once.
Yes. 2014, 2016, and 2018. Oh, 3 times, and then he was 17. He was a bubble boy in 2015.
Yeah, bubbles. You hate to see that. Yeah. Some very interesting, not primary meta decks a few of those years too. I remember in 2018, one of those decks was a Polana that was on a bunch of net damage and chipping from Tenon.
Yes, he called it Tech Glacier, and he really misses all that net damage. We were just joking. Also, 2016, he was playing Congress with the Toolbox, but no rabbit holes. That was the CTM year, and he's still top 16. Did well. But.
So this matchup we have Xayah. Chris is on Xayah. This is the deck we just saw, the Counter Surveillance Xayah. And then Aaron is on Acme. Is there anything spicy about this Acme that we should know?
Not too much. We were waffling with the last 2 influence between Arc Lockdown and Archive Memories, and we decided that Archive Memories is just a little more useful and versatile. And there's the other spice. I guess there's the one off Salem, and he did Salem's max and hit 2 Botulus and hit 2 Labor Rights at one point when there were 3 left in the deck.
Because you get to see the whole hand at that point, so you know what to call the second one.
Yeah, there were 3 left in the deck, so you're like, of course, Labor Rights. And they're like, oh, 2 Botulus, those might be good. Whoop.
Yeah. That's sick.
Yeah, for sure. So Aaron, basically, he's got the QPM is going to auto score. He's got the EOI then. Otherwise, he doesn't have a ton of tag punishment. Basically, on the Acme decks, he doesn't have the Keegan Lane. So in these Acme decks, the tag punishment is the ice itself.
Yeah.
And there's the 3 Chrysium, of course. That's going to be punishing because they want successful runs on HQ. They want successful runs on R&D with the counter surveillance.
And in many ways, you want that first counter surveillance to actually land because that gives you a nice shot of tempo.
Yes, especially out of Xayah with the Obelisk down, you're drawing and getting a credit back for all of them. So, I mean, it can be like very positive, but you have to get in. A lot of ice in the Acme deck and the Chrysiums.
And not only a lot of ice, a lot of disgusting ice.
Very much so. So it looks like Aaron's rushing a remote. I'm guessing probably a Rashida.
That would make sense.
Or it's not a daily quest. I think we'd have res that up.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of turn 2 Rashida fires from Corpse this weekend, and every time I see it, I say it feels like you're cheating when you're the Corp and you get that.
I agree. I'm firmly in the Bam Rashida court because it's just such a dumb, brain-dead card. It's an auto-include in every Corp deck. Glacier, Asset. Doesn't matter what you're playing, fast advance.
And you even play it into the degenerate sports decks.
Exactly, and there's no reason not to. And it forces a run, and I just feel like in this situation, if it fires turn 2, it's such a swing in these games, right? I mean, it's wild. It's not. You're not just talking like 1 turn of tempo. You can't even extrapolate out the power of it.
Right, because we talk about early clicks are always more powerful, and you get 6 early clicks if you fire that Rashida.
Definitely.
Net 5, I guess, if you want to include the install.
So I think this is a play on Sokka's
deck. That's a mutual favor to get out on Akula.
I believe so.
Right,
get that rolling, because we see the Thimble Rig there. Those are really nice in this deck to reposition later on, but now HQ is going to be a sieve.
Yep.
At least temporarily. We'll see what Aaron does to rectify if that Rashida fires.
Right. Obviously, you never want to end up as Acme in a position where Thimble Rig is the only ice on a server for an extended period of time, because that lets Turtle charge up, and your ice, which you spent so much time on, does not do much. That is a hot pursuit coming into HQ.
Nice start.
1 credit to break.
Nice start.
That's a credit perfect to land that hot pursuit from Chris.
That's a beautiful card in this deck. Such a massive. I mean, it's basically a stim hack you get to keep. You know?
I've seen people I've seen people put Chrysium on HQ and res Chrysium on HQ just to stop these hot pursuits.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we saw last game. J-Dang was on that. Because you also want a Chrysium for that counter surveillance on R&D, right? But they're just so much in criminal that triggers off of the HQ.
Yeah. Rashida is in fact the card in the remote. Rashida does in fact fire.
That
So-
really helps, really bring in some more defense. And Aaron's got to get the centrals locked up because there's also that one sneak door, which we don't know when that'll come down.
Yep. Yeah, that was a crucial card in the last matchup that we saw. Sneak Door just providing so much pressure for so early in the game.
Keeps the Zaya going as well. You know?
Yeah.
And that helps farm the turtle, just a variety of things. But yeah, this thimble rig needs to get covered at some point because it's just wide open. And
Only costing one cover to
we
get,
go.
and it immediately gets covered up here.
right, and you just have to like hope they don't get the sneak door. It's going to surprise you, right? You can't count on it. You have to really get this R&D lock. But it looks like Aaron just leaving R&D open, maybe keeping some money around.
Yeah.
Turtles farming. I think there is a let me look. I think there's a 1x macrophage in this.
I do
deck.
see a macrophage
Yes,
there, yeah.
that could really help him as well at some point if he gets it. Because when in some test games, like he put it on archives and it just like
Oh.
you know, or just like a place you like, especially here with the sneak door, you think you can get through it. Ooh,
Oh, we have a toll booth res. Aaron going down to 0 credits to res that toll booth.
seems
Chris
really,
losing 3.
really worried about HQ.
Yeah. Is that a sign of agendas in HQ or just a sign of I don't want you getting diversion of funds anytime soon?
Or any access to hot
Yeah.
pursuits or whatever. I think it's a matter of like really shoring up the thimble rig, right? Because
Yeah.
it was just easy to get in. And
True,
then
yeah.
Class
Very-
Act
very
coming
true.
down. I do think you have to. Aaron's broke though, but good time to play because you do have to kill these. I don't think you want that hanging around, right?
Right, we saw early in the game, after I believe it was a single rogue trading, Jason took an entire turn and just trashed rogue trading, trashed class acting.
Yeah.
Could be a similar idea here, just the longer that class act is up, the earlier it is, the more filtering you get, the
Get to
more
that
value you
overlist.
get from it.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, someone actually let the rogue tradings go yesterday. Chris said, which
Oh.
is a major mistake because
We saw that on stream. That's so
that-
much money.
it is. This deck does have a limited amount of money, right? It burns through it, and it really needs it for that counter surveillance. So
With Aaron on 2 credits, we are seeing a bravado into R&D. No res on the ice. No steal on the card, but that is an extra credit off of bravado. So firing back with, yes, there is a limited amount of the money in the deck, but you can burst up very quickly like that.
yeah, most definitely. And send the message really helps though. If Aaron's broke, I mean that might help him out some point. I'm betting one of those ice costs at least 8 to res.
Yeah,
Currently
probably.
out there, or at
So
least
if-
6. So maybe a ward.
If you're giving up 3 points, you better get a Hydra out of it.
You would hope so. You would hope so. You don't want to res an IP block out of that.
No, not at all. Though IP block, obviously a very good res with Turtle on the table. It's just well, usually it's a very good res. Against this particular Zaya deck, it's not always a good res because they want those tiles.
Totally. More than willing to take them, although they don't want too many.
Counter surveillance, you do actually have to pay for all of those tiles.
Yeah, that's right. At the end of the run, and I played Chris twice, and yeah, he put me in prison both times.
Here's a
But
Darkness Pass.
yeah, he didn't farm the IP blocks though, just because like at some point you need the money, and you just run out of money. And
Right.
Dockland Pass looks like Aaron's shoring up even more.
Is
Probably
that
Chrysium.
Chrysium on HQ probably?
Yeah, I think that's the only one. You're not going to put the Void there, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So.
I'd be very surprised to see the Void, yeah.
Chrysium seems like that's the right place to put it right now,
Mm-hmm.
just in case the sneak door comes or whatever. I mean, I'm sure you'd have to trash it. But
One of the interesting interactions we've seen several times this tournament, Docklands Pass does not get stopped by Chrysium. Docklands Pass does not require success, it just requires access.
yes,
So-
right. It's like H sure.
And that is a rogue trading down. Rogue trading gets hit once. Would be surprised if it is long for this world.
No, it will cost Aaron his whole turn to make credits and kill it,
Mm-hmm.
though, sadly. Aaron kind of in a tough spot here, icing at archives, it looks like, and killing it.
Yeah.
Just low on money. He doesn't have that daily quests and NGOs are the big money cards in this deck, and he hasn't seen either.
Has
yet.
not seen, right.
Just the Rashida.
Or at the very least has not seen Daily Quest and felt safe resing it.
At some point, you see a purge coming down here.
Right.
Maybe
we
he
already,
needs more money.
Right. Turtle is now on 5 counters. That is enough to get into HQ through that toll booth. So definitely think that you have to have a purge coming soon.
At some point, and it's hard to lose a turn at this point, depending what the hand is looking like.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, I told him he's on some great meta calls, off meta calls, right? You know, like not only surprise decks, but decks that people aren't expecting, so they don't have an answer.
Right. Absolutely.
Not an easy answer. like you said, the Keegan Lane is kind of an auto loss to him. So I mean, if he faces Tongue in the finals, you might as well shake his hand before it starts. But well, Greg would have to see the Keegan, of course. You know.
Of course.
So that's a quandary. These criminal decks, are they gonna have to shift as a result of Keegan Lane being out there? Who would have thought he'd be a meta shifter? But like, are they gonna have to either start running multiples of breakers or simul-chip or some kind of recursion, because they were living in the danger zone with one of each breaker here.
Well, but that's just kind of the criminal way, right? It's always in the danger zone.
Yeah, but that's a little too dangerous, I think. You know, I mean, that's really pushing it. Got a bravado hitting R&D here.
Yeah, so continuing to get these value accesses off of R&D, but not getting any points off of them. I think Chris has accessed R&D 5 or 6 times and not stolen an agenda off of it.
Aaron's not getting lucky there, or they're in hand. We haven't really can't really see what's in the hand, so it looks like Chris is coming in to take a look.
It will cost 5 credits total to get into HQ, so certainly not cheap, but this will be rewarded with 2 accesses.
And he'll get 2 money, but
3 actually, because of the upgrade.
That's Gotland's pass, yes, and the upgrade. So and he's going to have to kill this Chris here for sure.
You've got to think so, yeah.
I love this spinning ring he has.
Yeah,
I thought
me
at
too.
first.
And that is a send the message.
There we go. Where's the big boy? The data ward.
Data ward on R&D. So only 6 credits of value, but shutting off that server, which has just been bleeding accesses so far.
And you hit a
Spin Doctor trashed.
And the EOI. We knew there had to be an agenda in there, right? I mean, at this point, odds are. Surprised Aaron didn't get that Spin Doctor down and try and fix it.
a bit surprised too. Agreed.
I think you want to just keep the hand as thick as possible, like a known hand, but because
So
when you
that
Spin
is-
Doctor, you can pull some agendas up.
That is 3 points for Chris.
Yep.
So up 3-0.
It's definitely the first agenda Aaron does want touched. You know, like he hit one against Greg Tongue here earlier, and I think turn 1 ruined his plan of APOC on turn 1.
Yeah. And this is kind of the classic play from Diversion of Funds that we've seen all weekend. Just
After you
we're
cleared it.
both in hell.
Yeah, basically.
Take 5 credits from you. I spent 5 credits and 2 clicks getting in. I didn't gain any money. You just lost it.
Indeed. This is definitely a prison runner deck. I didn't think we'd really see any in the meta.
Yeah.
And we know Nisei hates NPE. And this is definitely, to me at least, was an NPE experience. But we'll see.
Well, you were also on Boom.
Oh, come on. I value Boom Chris 3 times this tournament. Is that like
Value Boom.
Is that like a consolation prize? Should I take like?
Should
Did I
be,
get an
yeah.
achievement for that? Like a silver level achievement? Would you say? Or?
I mean, talk to Josh about that, but I think you should.
I definitely got to talk to CTZ on this.
Yeah, you dealt 21 value meat damage. That's way more than we see in just about any tournament.
No, and not win.
Yeah. Right. Well, all value.
Yeah. In retrospect, I wish I would have jammed for that high profile.
We see a Spin Doctor res, so choosing to draw here.
Maybe fix it and get that other Spin Doctor back. Let's see.
Chrysium and Spin Doctor
Good calls.
are, yep.
Great
Yeah,
call.
Chrysium definitely.
Yep.
We saw how much money Chris had to spend to get in
Yeah.
and trash that Chrysium earlier.
The Centrals are looking okay. I mean, HQ could be a little better. I'm surprised Aaron hasn't moved this thimble rig. I don't know if there's a good way to
Yeah.
move it right now.
Well, you don't necessarily want it to be the outro on any the outermost on any central server
That is
or the
true.
remote.
That is
So
true.
at the moment, it would have to be.
And you don't want them to easily farm.
Is
he
this rogue trading? Is this rogue trading gonna? Yep, this
Yes,
rogue trading
yeah.
also dies, even though it takes. Oh no!
Yeah.
No, that was spending the full turn by Chris to clear off the rogue trading.
Oh wow, Aaron let it go.
Yeah, let it go, and that's 12 credits.
Yeah, Aaron was desperate for it. Maybe Aaron didn't mind the money. Maybe he's going to
Yeah.
purge here, I'm guessing. So you grab the subliminal back. I think you got to purge at some point here.
Yeah, immediately throws down the subliminal for the credit. I think that's one of the first turns the subliminal's actually been able to come back this game.
Yes. Well, you know, the Zai has been running, you know, unhindered. I mean, it's just like not enough money to res it.
Yeah, this seems to be, despite the turn 2 Rashida Fire, a fairly rough start from that.
Yeah,
it seems
yeah.
like.
Well, like we said, he's not seen neither a quest nor an
Yeah.
NGO at this point. The money is not there.
Yep.
And
Now,
Aaron's
is
in a rough
this
spot.
what other money is this Acme list on? Are we on Hansei reviews or
No,
anything like that?
He dropped those for the archive memories. So
Yeah, and
it's,
archive memory is quite good.
it's the hedge, it's the subliminal. He does have a spicy threat level alpha. Not going to be used in this matchup, but the idea was you could EOI them without having to run. It doesn't
Yeah.
require a successful run as long as you can outmoney
That's
them by
really
a little.
spicy tech, yeah. Yeah, with EOI as the punishment, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Though I could, Could you potentially see a world where Chris gets up to 13 tags and you threat level Alpha to double that to counter surveillance really tough?
Oh, that's a great idea. I mean, you'd have to really outmoney him at that point,
Yeah.
which I think would be hard. That would be funny. Push him to 50 tags.
Yeah. Would definitely be tough at this point because Aaron is definitely behind on money right now,
Yeah.
behind on tempo.
And Chris can control his tags pretty well, I feel
Yep.
like. You know, he doesn't have to go ham with the tags.
Hasn't
No
so
obelisk
far.
yet, though. No
No
obelisk,
obelisk,
which
yeah.
is really hurt. That 40 card deck is really huge for this this build, I think.
Absolutely, we've seen these criminal counter surveillance decks in the past. Sometimes with God of War, sometimes just with obviously with Liza, who's 50, but plays like 40 in some ways because you draw so much. But
Exactly.
having 40 naturally just is such a strong thing when you're trying to put together a specific combination of cards.
Yep. So the beauty here, Aaron's got a purge shooting. It's up to 7. So he covers the data ward, but now at this point, I mean, when you're playing a Tag Me deck, it's always
Right,
on, which is
right.
awesome.
Yeah, that is one of the nice things. Data ward you usually want to be the outermost, but here it does not matter. It does not matter whatsoever.
Looks like he's coming, or is he just farming tags, or is he coming HQ? I think he's farming tags.
I think is he running the archives ice that we can't see?
That could be, yeah. He is farming turtle, looks like. To get, He wants to get through data ward here.
Yeah, data ward. Yep.
It's counter
that makes
surveillancing
sense.
through the data ward. And he's on 9 tags.
Yep, on 9.
Aaron's
so needs
gets
9
no res.
credits at the end. No obelisk at the end.
So he
here.
takes another tag to 10. He's going to see 10 cards, 4 to break. He has plenty of money because of that rope. I'm surprised Aaron let that go. I just think it was a bad idea. This could probably be the game here.
Very well could be. That is another send a message. Resing a Thoth on the outside.
Yeah, Aaron just with no money all games is pretty hard.
Yep.
He can even steal a blown at this point, obviously.
Yep.
Trashing something there, or Sheeta probably, or NGO.
And that is a
game.
Bologna for game.
That was a quick one.
Yep, that was, or 15 minutes per game rather.
Okay.
So ending on exactly 7. Tough game for Aaron. Did not seem like Aaron was really able to get off the ground in that one, but
No.
But
No.
that is Chris moving on. Congratulations to Aaron for getting this far. This is, we've talked about all weekend, an incredibly stacked field, and getting third in this field is extremely impressive.
No doubt. Do you know, he basically didn't even want to make the cut. He tried as many times. Have you heard how he made the cut here?
No, I have not.
2 for 1 with Cortez.
Uh-huh.
But they didn't actually play. They didn't even flip a coin. They were going to flip a coin. They rolled a die. They both rolled a 1. Roll a second die. Aaron rolls a 6. Cortez rolls a 4. Aaron wins. Aaron's like, that's not good enough. I don't feel good about that win.
Yeah.
I'm playing against Austin Mills, and they will let's stake our getting into the cut on them. I'm gonna back Spags, and you back Austin Mills, and I happen to win. And then Aaron basically took him 3 times of refusing
Wow.
to get into the cut. So.
Well, despite trying his hardest to not get into the cut, manages to make third in this event. Fantastic result.
Haven't played
Congratulations to Aaron.
haven't played in a year and a half. No
Yeah.
practice. The old head still came through a little bit. Yeah, you're right. Great run, but Chris, also glad to see him move on. He has some awesome
Absolutely.
decks.
Yeah.
But like I said, going to be really tough against that Keegan Lane. Who would have thought Keegan Lane, BG man, if you will, if you remember that meme.
If you know, you know.
If
Yeah.
you know, you know. Keegan Lane might be the MVP of this tournament, and I mean, should we get into it? He's probably a drill runner MVP, right? He can fit probably 85% of drill runner.
We have to very specifically hold off on putting drill runners onto Keegan Lane because there are too many. There
Yes.
will be too many.
Yes.
It will all be Begot and Keegan Lane, and that's it.
I mean, seriously, a top tier art. I mean, like,
Oh, absolutely.
the hands behind the head, the smug look on his face, like the flavor text. Like, I don't think a more perfect card has been made for overall theme art.
The only one that I might put
For
ahead
drill
of it-
runner.
For drill
Well-
runner, the only one we could put ahead is Inside Job.
Inside job. Well,
Inside job.
that's the GOAT. That's Dan, the Dan side job. The GOAT card for drill.
And honestly, I think in many creative projects of that variety where you have like, I take a Netrunner card, I put text of some type on it, Inside Job would not be the GOAT. It is specifically because it is drill.
Yes. Yes. Well, because drill has so many references to toilets
Yep.
and things involving toilets that, like, Inside Job, I mean, it's the only toilet card we have in Netrunner.
Yep. All right, well, we will be back with the Chris versus Greg matchup in the near future, but for the moment, I'm going to give us a quick rest. See y'all in the stream in just a few minutes. And welcome back to the Center in Roseville, Minnesota. We are here for the grand finals of the Off the Grid World Championships.
I have wanted to see Chris's deck all day, and I haven't actually been able to see it in action yet, and I am
It's
so excited.
The top decks are in.
All right, we actually have the deck list this time, so we shouldn't be asking questions like, I wonder, is Chris playing this card? We should actually be able to see them at this point. I'll let you hold these. So we have the matchup starting off. So for those who have not seen a Netrunner cut before, or maybe it's just been a while since you've seen one, Chris has one loss going into this grand final. So Greg Tongue is on 0 losses going into this grand final. The reason that matters, it is a double elimination bracket. So Chris gets 2 losses, but Greg also gets 2 losses. That means if Chris wins this first game, Chris has to turn around, play another game against Greg, and also win that. So definitely a good advantage to be in for Greg, but Chris could easily win these 2 games and be the off-the-grid world champion at the end of the day. Just will take 2 games to do it if that's what ends up happening.
I am so excited to see how the highest stakes store championship I've ever seen ends up turning out.
Right, we keep joking that this is the off-the-grid world championships,
Yes,
but
it's fake.
there
fake.
were 3 world champions here.
Exactly,
Right?
it's fake. So I don't quite know anything about Greg's runner list.
Neither
Is it
do I.
basically pretty much just regular 419?
Looking through it now, I'm seeing a lot of things that look very regular 419.
I am liking the one of Black File.
We do have, that
I'm
is
going to love
probably
if that ever comes into play here.
that is the spiciest thing that I see in this list right now. So starting off, Chris is starting off with advanced assembly lines that is revealed to Greg. Nothing to punish reveals at this point. Icing up HQ, always a good choice against Criminal. And then adding a second card into that remote. Resing advanced assembly lines, popping it, and icing that remote. So we have an iced remote, a tempo gain, and an ice on HQ.
Yeah, and it was a good way to get around the 419 trigger. If you're popping the assembly lines anyways, why not?
So we are seeing falsified credentials will reveal that this is in fact a Tranquility home grid in the remote.
What a card.
So Chris trying to bamboozle, maybe.
Yeah, that's pretty good getting it that early and being able to put it behind a piece of ice. Mm-hmm. Because that thing, if you don't get it out early, or if you don't get rid of it early, just becomes increasingly more of a problem.
Absolutely. Provides so much tempo over the whole course of the game.
It's crazy.
Even in the face of this 419 trigger, gaining tempo by installing that card.
It's like it almost just removes the ability, which is really cool.
Agreed. Now, Greg has not had bad start either. That falsified provides money to just plop down a class act for 0 effective credits, throwing down a Paragon as well.
Yeah, going down
seeing
to
a Dirty
here
Laundry
for
into
Dirty
R&D.
Laundry.
Right, we see there's going to be a credit come in and a scry from Paragon. Scry stays on top, it looks like. Nope, scry goes on the bottom.
I don't think I would be brave enough to be running it this
Oh,
low of
and
money
that is an
against
off-world
Chris.
office. So that is 2 credits, or 2 points coming in for Greg.
That was a pretty okay early single access, I would say.
Agreed. That's a pretty good one. Greg up to...
Because off-world doesn't pay you when it's stolen, correct?
Correct.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so Greg is up to 11 credits, probably feels a little safe here, but we have seen some skateboard tricks come out of Chris's deck with...
and we just did see a Rashida get popped.
Yeah, if that was potentially in the danger zone, though. It takes a certain combination of cards, but we have already seen it on stream this weekend with
this thing is
seamless
so
into
versatile.
a reversed account, into a hard-hitting news.
This deck is so versatile. It's so cool.
Yeah. Now, Rashida, obviously, a lot of tempo that you get off of that, threatening to just win the old-fashioned way via making a taxing remote that the runner cannot repeatedly break. Don't want to have this open R&D forever, but I think priorities, getting HQ defended, getting a remote set up that
And
is
at least
difficult
right
to get
now,
through.
there's no there's no turtle, there's no conduit.
Yep.
It's just single access, so I think that's a pretty solid plan.
Yeah, it's not. It's
R&D's
definitely not terrible.
Unless R&D really decides to give you the time of day, I think.
And Greg says, whatever's in this remote, I'm not getting in there. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to start setting up my board, get money, get credits. That is a Vitruvius.
All right. What a card.
Yeah, Vitruvius coming in. Vitruvius with a counter. So using that Seamless to get that counter on Vitruvius. And get the Seamless back. Basically free at that point.
Yeah, I like how Vitruvius works with precision design too. You really have a lot of flexibility.
Absolutely. And that does, we're a bit away from this point in the game, but having that Vitruvius counter lets you threaten a 5-3 with only one Seamless in hand.
That's right. That is cool.
Now, Bravado goes into HQ, reveals that there is a vanilla there, which will block the access and block the rest. So blocking the extra credit off of the Bravado and the access. Still, that vanilla, yes, it'll take either a turtle or a paperclip, but it
What a
only
card.
takes one of them.
What a card.
Vanilla? Yeah, good one. Paragon scrying something to the bottom, and we see a hard-hitting news.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Good eye.
That is a hard-hitting news on top. So Greg on 10 credits just decides to
So-
continue drawing up.
Yep, it's in the safe zone, but like I said, this precision design has a lot of tricks to make it so 10 credits might not be enough.
Yep, although none of them can be used this particular turn just
Yeah.
because there can't be a reversed accounts on the board because
Yep.
of where that Vitruvius was. So Greg knows that he's safe this particular turn, but also knows that danger could be coming in the future because the hard hitting
Yep.
is in fact in hand now. This is no longer a drug.
Yep, and R&D sure might not be the most dangerous place, but being able to know what the corp is drawing is pretty okay in itself, I would say.
Yeah, Chris, I would imagine, probably wants to start finding. Some sort of defenses of some sort to actually put on R&D to make these accesses taxing.
This remote pressure is really strong, though.
It is, yeah. Greg does not have to spend credits to get into R&D, but spending clicks to get into R&D means that you're not spending clicks drawing to get into this remote.
Chris has a lot of money, 2 ice, and I assume there would be a skunk in that remote.
Seems like
So
probably.
that seems
Yep,
like a
seems
pretty
like
happy
probably.
remote situation. So yeah, it's an interesting balance of whether you want to keep picking at R&D or see.
Yeah,
if you
but
can test that remote.
looking at the list, it has to, in fact, be a Skunkworks because there are no other.
Or
there
a
are
second
no other
tranquility
legal-
on grade.
Well, if that's the case, that's a game loss. It would be an unfortunate way for grand finals to end, but we have a paperclip on the board. So HQ is now a very cheap server to get into, and also says Hagens won't
Yeah.
keep me out.
I feel like Chris is in a pretty okay place where agendas aren't staying in hand very long, but
Yeah. But that certainly could change
Yep.
as more breakers and more tools come down. But Greg is Greg is on 14 credits, which is not necessarily enough. That is a luminal transubstantiation coming out. No seamless launch needed for that. Just get those 3 clicks back. What will Chris do with these 3 clicks off of luminal?
so Greg has 14 bucks.
So jamming once again. Like we discussed, this
I
is
mean,
threatening
jamming
the
seems
win.
like a great idea here.
This is threatening
Yeah.
lethal. If this is a Vacheron in the remote, then a single seamless, which we know is in hand,
Yep.
will do it.
Let's see, single or double?
But install
No,
advance is
only
not-
one advance.
That
Okay.
tells me this is very well could
be a
be
seamless
reversed
still.
accounts.
Yeah.
That would be my thought. Presenting the fork here because reverse
Or,
accounts
I
does
mean,
not care
Seamless
if
to score a 3-pointer seems like an okay thing to
you.
do.
True, but you wouldn't
Yeah.
need to advance it to do that because you could seamless get
That's-
the seamless back,
yep.
seamless advance.
Good point.
So my thought is
cheeky
And
reversed accounts.
reversed accounts.
You love to see it.
Yeah, reversed accounts threatens a lot because you do not. Oh,
It
exposes it's a Vashron. Seems like that was maybe baiting or maybe trying to bait a run by making Greg think it was a reversed account.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
we've got the code gate breaker.
Also possible that Chris just forgot about the Vitruvius counter mine for Seamless.
The amount of times I've forgotten about my
Yeah.
Atlas or Vitruvius counters is too high for me to admit.
Agreed. It's too high for me to be here at the Grand Finals. Now, Unity comes down, so there is both a code gate breaker and a barrier breaker on the field.
And the only, I think the only sentry that Chris is running are drafters.
Yes,
so.
and Drafter is not good to let fire. You never want to let Drafter fire, but
But it does not say end the run.
it does not say end the run, and right now, if you don't get into this remote, Chris can end the game instead of ending the run.
Yes,
So-
and with the skunk works in there, it doesn't help.
Nope, not at all. Well, and that is one of the things. So Chris spends a lot of influence on hard-hitting news and on Luminous List. Does not have an Anedic Void to throw into the remote if Drafter fires.
Yeah.
Drafter provides a lot of value still, but not quite as much value as it would if you can throw an extra defensive upgrade into that remote.
Yep.
So, what will Greg
This is
do?
I mean, Chris has presented that the game can end, so
Yep.
it has to go here. So I'm pressing
Here
nothing but a
is
gatekeeper.
a Gatekeeper.
What
Gatekeeper,
a card! I love that card.
reasonably expensive with
So-
Unity. Unity
Yeah,
has to...
it's not great, but it's okay.
Yep, so that is 10 credits to get through the Gatekeeper and the Skunkworks. And to access. We're getting Paragon before anything else happens.
Yep.
So that is a Vacheron.
I think all of these
It
have
is
to
not
go.
quite 5 points, but it is 5 points soon.
Eventually,
It'll be 5 points at some point.
which is very advantageous for Chris here because, are those assets staying? Or upgrades, sorry.
Yeah, Greg has to make a choice.
Yeah,
If
this
you
is-
trash
this
the
is an upgrade.
Skunkworks, you might go low enough that you just get hard
That you
hitting,
just
and
die.
you die before the Vacheron ever takes up.
Skunk versus
Yep, and sure enough.
leaving both.
Oh wow, that is a
That was
Cyberdeck
that was a
sandbox.
snipe.
Cyberdeck sandbox. So Greg is now threatening the win in a few turns.
Yep. So was able to bounce back on money pretty quickly.
Yeah. So
Spin
Chris
Doctor.
drawing up a Spin Doctor. This is a very tough position for Chris to be in because
Yeah,
Greg
this went
managed to
from going
navigate
pretty
that
well
turn very
to
well.
not good at all. Like
Yep.
that swing was crazy what just happened.
Yeah, that looked like such a strong turn from Chris, but Greg navigated it perfectly that turn.
And the window is closing for being able to survive a run and
Mm-hmm.
do some reverse accounting.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Chris, this is a Gatekeeper at 0 strength for the rest of the game, so not going to provide nearly as much
It
defense.
wasn't able to.
We have a diversion of funds come out. That will only take 1 credit, and it will take 5 away from Chris. So, just saying,
Yeah, that money swing was really substantial.
it matters both in terms of Greg gaining money, but I think it's more impactful that Chris is losing money because that just says
Yeah.
you have so much less to try to actually win the game with, and
Yep.
all I need is for 3 turns to start.
Yep.
So,
That seems like a totally viable plan to just
running the remote,
wait and just
bravadoing
deny.
the remote. Yeah, bravadoing the remote to really just.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so we have breaking there. We have breaking the Skunkworks as well.
Okay, Gatekeeper
What is in the remote? It is a Rashida. Rashida has to get trashed there,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh god, yeah.
Skunkworks staying up because it doesn't matter if you can break the remote really at
Losing
this
that
point.
Rashida's
Yeah.
really hard for Chris.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Chris has outs here. Chris is
We
drawing
can
to
see
try to
some.
find
We
some.
can see some magic. If only there was not a timer on the game right now. Is in that Vacheron sitting there.
Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, you can't really Moby a game against Vacheron.
Yep. And
Chris only at 4 credits right now
having
with a
so
new
low
install
credits,
on the remote.
a low time, and it doesn't. The reversed accounts is again. The window is very much closing.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, if Greg has falsified,
Especially when another doof comes out.
so Greg does not currently have falsified, but if Greg did have falsified, would not even need to. Oh, and there's a black file. The game is over. The game's over.
Yep, that's it.
The game is
Can't
over
score.
because Chris. The only way
Unless
that Chris
there
can
was
win
some-
is kill.
Unless
But-
there's some way to play hard-hitting news and a kill card
How-
in the
how
same
are-
turn, which, however, is not possible.
Yeah, how do you actually get to win this game if you're Chris?
I think that's it.
You need to fire off hard-hitting news this turn, and you do not have the credit differential to do
Yep.
that, and you certainly don't have the credits to do that, and also fire off a boomstick. I think this game is over. The only potential out for Chris is that Greg does not run this remote, and it does
I
actually
don't
happen
see
to
a
be the
reason for
5-3.
Greg to run.
Well, to prevent the 5-3. That's the only way that you possibly would. Wait, no, the black file.
Yeah.
So no. I can't even read the cards.
I think.
No, this
Yeah,
game's over.
That's it.
I believe this game is over.
Wow, that was a crazy swing with that
Yeah.
remote.
Yeah. Those are the exact numbers that you want to see Black File and Vacheron on as the runner.
It works the way you want it to.
Yep.
Inside dropping the remote, anyways.
Boomerang, but same thing.
Oh, magnet.
And it's a
And
Vitruvius
some
just
points
for
anyways, just for
posterity.
Yeah, wow, I love that use of Black File. I haven't seen that card in a long time.
Congratulations to Greg Tung,
Yep, there it is.
the off-the-grid world champion of 2021. As you can hear, the crowd is going wild. Congratulations to Greg. Out of
That
this
was a
field of 50
crazy last game.
people.
That was a really exciting last game.
Really good last
Not
game.
very long, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be. Yeah, that remote turn was just so nuts.
It was.
That
It was.
was
Well,
awesome.
and we saw, I think, one of the things we saw there is the power of falsified credentials, because
Yep.
falsified credentials told Greg exactly what the right play was that
Yep.
turn.
Yep.
Turns out exposing is a very strong mechanic. Let's see if we can get Greg on to talk to us real quick about this win. But gonna let him pack up
Oh
first,
yeah,
obviously.
of course. Yeah. No, that was awesome. That was Chris's deck is just so cool to watch with so many options. Was able to rush out the first half, but couldn't quite close it.
We're figuring out the exact situation, trying to grab Greg to get him over here to talk to y'all real quick. Greg, congratulations on the win.
Ah, thank you so much, man.
Very well played.
yeah.
Seriously, incredible tournament for you like that.
Yeah.
In this field.
Absolutely. No, this was a bloodbath of an event. So many talented players, so many challenging games. I felt like, it was honestly down to the wire almost every match.
Yeah. How did you feel about the decks that you brought today?
And
yesterday.
Yeah, so I think that Acme is extremely well positioned right here. I don't know if you guys were talking about my deck list at all.
We didn't get into Acme, we were waiting until we saw it on screen, but let's hear a little bit about it now. I think people probably want to know.
Sure. So the big change that I think was influential was to account for this proliferation of APOC Max, which has such a good matchup against PD and Sports.
Yeah.
I think that the goal of the Acme deck, you're already kind of favored by merit of the expensive ice.
Yep.
So I cut a lot of the tech cards and focused more on economy. So went to 3 predicted planograms, replaced 3 daily quests with 3 regolith mining licenses, just so you can get the money early.
Yep.
You can res those hydras without send a message, so you can res those data wards, and so you can focus more time on drawing into your prisms and locking up the board state.
Yeah.
The 419 was Jonas's list. I actually just made the deck worse in several ways.
How so?
Yeah, so I went to 2 Earthrise, 2 Class X instead of 3 Class X, 1 Earthrise.
Yeah.
I cut an Amakua for a mutual favor. So all of this reducing consistency.
Yep.
We're finding the draw engine less quickly. We're shuffling our deck more often. I also added a Docklands pass, which I think was really good. Did not cut the black file. I was going to joke about how I bottomed it with Paragon every game, but you saw
But
how
as
the
we
last
saw,
match
it did in fact win you that last game.
I have to make a new deck write-up now. Yeah, 419 I think is still quite well positioned. I think it has good game against Acme. One really interesting development that came throughout the tournament that Andrew Cortez brought, and I included one of, was Keegan Lane as a way to address this 419 situation. The fact that they have gone so lean with the Breaker Suite and that IP block is so good against Amakua, if you can hit the Begalter or the Unity with Keegan, it kind of really blows the game open in your favor in terms of like stopping that early aggression. So I included one because I didn't know what to put in for the 49th card. It was previously preemptive action and I wanted that activity. Yeah, that was pretty much that. I think I brought great decks to the event. I think I played well. Very proud of myself. This is the first store championship level event that I've ever won.
Wow.
So I'm really excited to break free of that curse of second place.
Right. Right. I was gonna say, have certainly won events that are higher profile than that. I remember the like run back after Worlds 2018 tournament took that down.
I did win that event. Something about it, something about winning an event that has like the FFG or the Nisei brand behind it, it makes it feel a lot more real. And it wasn't like in my bedroom on JNet. It was with all these amazing people in this fantastic venue run by Orbital Tangent. And yourself, obviously, running the streams all day.
I have to thank CTZ for that. It's his stream. I'm just here talking on it.
I think the commentary's been phenomenal. I've been listening in throughout the weekend whenever I've had a chance.
Thank you.
So
did you? One last question before we announce prizes. Josh is looking at me. I know that's going to happen in momentarily. But just one more question. Do you have a favorite game or a favorite match that you played this weekend?
Oh, great question. It's hard to pick. They were all quite back and forth. I really enjoyed my games with Melvin. In particular, our Acme versus 419 matchup was really intense. That was a game in which Keegan trashed an Amina.
An Amina.
Yeah.
Wow.
Opponent got to 6 points and could have stole the QPM from HQ several times. But the masks help with the poker face, and
absolutely.
And
they have to see it in the eyes. And it's harder.
And the ice is so demoralizing that played to my out. Opponent played phenomenally the whole way through. So that round 4 match was really, really great. Also, really close game. Playing at start of day 2 against Ian, who we were joking about how the matchup was completely unwinnable for Max the whole way through, and he got to 4 with a Sam in archives from Stargate pretty darn quick, and it was a back and forth. Had to break Stargate lock to find a Spin Doctor, and somehow got there.
Wow. Well, congratulations on the win. I'm gonna let Josh announce prizes, but fantastic win, and that's it from Roseville for us. So congratulations to Greg Tung, congratulations to all the top 8 competitors, and congratulations to everyone that was here. This was a fantastic event. Thank you, Josh. Signing off from Roseville, Minnesota.
You're very welcome, everyone.
Take
Have
care,
a good
guys.
day, y'all.